Chapter 532. In the illusion, the battle has begun. The young Chunin shouted and rushed forward. Go. Catch Uchiha Madara alive. You have been surrounded by us. In addition to being young and aggressive, not dying in the illusion is also an important factor. Uchiha Madara crossed his arms and jumped down from the mountain in the illusion. Do you want to dance too? As his voice fell, a huge blue samurai body was outlined around him. Then 25 wood clone jutsu jumped out of his body and also used Susanoo. This scene made everyone a little lost. What? Can jutsu use this trick? He must be bluffing. Use the earth release to stop these giants. However, the attack of the wood clone jutsu broke their illusion. Whether it was turning around to escape or using ninjutsu defense, they couldn't catch those Susanoo giants. It's not over yet. Madara's body and Susanoo printed at the same time, and the next moment, 3 huge meteorites broke through the clouds and fell in the shape of a triangle. Although the candidates have long heard of this ability of Uchiha Madara, it's not as shocking as seeing it with their own eyes. This terrible picture is like the sky falling, and the pressure brought by it is unparalleled by any giant. Damn it, our strength is not in the same dimension as his. He's so strong in his soul state. What kind of monster did the leader fight against? Hearing their despair, Madara's mouth twitched. A group of idiots. The one who really faced the monster is me. Although Hashirama was strong, he didn't make him feel invincible, but that man was so strong that even he couldn't understand him. God knows how he survived at that time. Hearing Madara's resentment, many people were stunned. Shisui hasn't fought for 5 years, and the image that appeared in front of them was a gentle and kind gentleman, so they subconsciously forgot that Shisui was more terrible than Madara. Then they were killed by Madara's resentment. From the beginning to the present, it was just a few seconds, and Madara's body didn't even move, and just a few prints forced them into a desperate situation. The 5 shadows in the audience were not surprised at all by this result. If Uchiha Madara is defeated by these little guys, then he won't be the nightmare of an era. They had only guessed how long these little fellows could last. They did not think that they could achieve any decent results. How tragic. Reikage couldn't help but sigh. The second enemy is Uchiha Madara. Did the leader personally decide this? Empress Shomei had a worried look in her eyes. Even if the 5 of us join the battle, the outcome won't change much. Isn't it too early for them to fight against such a strong enemy? Mizukage, you spoil these little guys too much. Inoki shook his head in dissatisfaction. You see, the war has only been over for a few years, and the environment inside the alliance is so impetuous that even a strong enemy like Madara doesn't know how to be respectful. Raza nodded. The leader must want this impetuous environment to settle down. At the same time, he wants them to understand what kind of enemy their predecessors were fighting against in the past. Minato smiled slightly. If they are afraid of a battle where they won't die, then such people should be paid attention to. In the dream world, after experiencing the bombardment of Susanoo and meteorites, the number of candidates has been severely reduced. It wasn't until this time that they really realized the importance of unity. A clear and melodious female voice sounded in everyone's heart. I am Ino Yamanaka of Konoha, and I am now communicating with you through the mind communication technique. In order to break his defense, we must join forces. The rest of the people were not surprised and quickly adapted. How to unite? It's already difficult to avoid the attack. How can we fight back? Everyone discussed, and for a while they couldn't distinguish any useful information at all. Ino directly activated silence. There is not much time, so don't discuss. After I release the restriction, you can directly say your position, and we will work together to create conditions for the main attacker. The rest of the people were all outstanding people. After calming down, they quickly agreed on a result. Then the people who had been running for their lives rushed toward Uchiha Madara in the central area at the same time. They thought very clearly that with their strength, it was too difficult to destroy the 25 giant clones. Even if they were destroyed, maybe Madara could create a dozen more clones in the next moment. Therefore, after leaving some people to hold back those clones, the rest of the people rushed toward Madara. This kind of awareness and momentum surprised Madara. It seems that Shimizu Garashi really taught a lot of interesting kids, but I won't let you win. With the momentum and determination to destroy everything, the control group was the first to make a move. Earth release, Yellow Spring Swamp. Earth release, Mountain Earth release. Ninjutsu, Heart Confusion Technique. Ninjutsu, Shadow Bind Technique. Sand Burial. Various binding and controlling skills were thrown on Madara, and for a while even the giant warrior transformed by Susanoo was sealed. Great, however, their joy only lasted for a moment. Shinra Tensei. The sand and rocks that bound the giant were all bounced away. But their efforts were not completely in vain. While Madara was controlled, the attack group had already completed their ninjutsu. Fire release, great fireball technique. Earth release, rock fist. Water release. However, Madara absorbed most of the attacks just by absorbing Chakra's ability with Rinnegan. It's useless, it's useless. At this time Daidara's voice came from behind him. Then let's try this trick. Madara didn't care much at first, but after perceiving the terrible density of chakra, his face finally changed. Feel this ultimate art drink. Daidara shouted fanatically. The process was smooth and there was no trace of blockage. Through the simulation in the dream world he has been very skilled in death. The terrible beam of light shrouded Madara and the others in an instant. The dazzling white light filled the whole space, and the space shook violently as if it was about to collapse. Even the people watching in the real world could feel the shock of this scene. Good, that guy's self-destruction is so strong. Is he dead? Even Uchiha Madara should have lost, right? In the expectant eyes of the people outside, the dust dissipated, revealing Susanoo's broken body. Seeing this, the people in the square were in an uproar. Can't this level of attack work? So, Daidara's self-destruction only took away his teammates in the end. Everyone was shocked and they couldn't help but think, Uchiha Madara in his soul state is already so strong, how strong is the leader who defeated him? Chapter 533. So this is Uchiha Madara's strength? Too strong. Uncle used to fight this kind of enemy? Boron clenched his fist and asked. Compared with his heyday, this is nothing. The middle-aged Sasuke shook his head slightly. He wasn't surprised by this result. Daidara's self-explosion was very strong, but it didn't completely blow up the bodies of all snakes that he used to escape, let alone the complete body Susanoo, which was far stronger than all snakes. Being able to achieve this result was the result of Uchiha Madara's strength, not in his heyday. It seems that this exam is over. The middle-aged Sasuke was suddenly shocked and shouted in disbelief, "This is Flying Thunder God Jutsu?" What surprised him even more was that the person who used Flying Thunder God Jutsu in the picture turned out to be him in this time and space. The middle-aged Sasuke forcibly suppressed his shock and said to himself, "Yes, from the point of view of my Rinnegan's exclusive dojutsu, I should have the talent of space-time ninjutsu." Now it seems that at the moment of Daidara's self-explosion, he used Flying Thunder God Jutsu to escape with Naruto Neji, and then used Flying Thunder God Jutsu to teleport back. Without waiting for him to suppress the shock in his heart, his eyes widened again. Wait, how come even Naruto Neji, not only Flying Thunder God Sasuke, but the other two were also strengthened into Sage Naruto and Hashima Neji? In the picture, Neji's body erupted with an incomparably powerful momentum, and Naruto and Sasuke stood on his left and right arms. Then, Hashiman Tanku, Revolving Heaven. Under the buff of Hashiman Tanku, Neji's Revolving Heaven speed was faster than any Hyuga clan member. When the rotation speed of Revolving Heaven reached its peak, Naruto and Sasuke were thrown out. Sage Mode, Otama Rasengan. Combination Ninjutsu, Chidori Fire Dragon. Under the tacit cooperation of the two completely different attack modes showed signs of fusion. Under the speed buff given by Neji, it was like an arrow of destruction shuttling through time and space. What a group of brats. Madara squinted his eyes. With his combat IQ, of course, he understood that the previous waves of attacks were actually to create opportunities for the self-explosion brat. If the self-detonation failed, they would take advantage of the moment when everyone was swallowed by the self-detonation and the moment when he let his guard down to form a final wave of attacks. Unfortunately, although their speed was already very fast, he still reacted in time. However, he was not prepared to dodge. In these two brats, he seemed to see the shadow of himself in Hashirama. If I grew up in the same village as Hashirama, I should be able to have such a tacit understanding. Thinking of this, Madara pulled out his katana from the scabbard, attached the repulsive force to the blade, and slashed at the arrow, with an indomitable force. Boom. Endless amounts of energy gushed out. Storms wreaked havoc and dazzling rays of light engulfed everything in the surroundings in an unstoppable manner. The surrounding space was like the waves of a raging sea, constantly rising and falling, giving people the illusion that it would collapse in the next moment. Even though there was a boundary separating them from reality and illusion, everyone still felt a sense of fear. They were worried that the illusion would shatter and the devastating energy shockwaves would spread to the real world. Everyone was speechless. They couldn't imagine that such a battle was caused by a few 12 or 13-year-old kids. That's amazing. That's shocking. Even the great leader can't do that at this age. Even with Grandpa Bo's pride, he was convinced at this moment. I always thought that my dad was stronger than me only because of his age. When I'm his age, I'll definitely be stronger than him. I didn't expect that my father and uncle are already stronger than me now. It seems that I have to work hard too. Middle-aged Sasuke wanted to say, "You think too much. I wasn't as good as you when I was your age." However, in order to retain his master's dignity, he nodded vaguely. "It's good that you know how to work hard." When the storm subsided, Madara and Naruto had disappeared, leaving only Neji lying on the ground with a confused look. Am I the only one left? The outside world was silent for a moment, and then cheered fiercely. That's amazing. They defeated Uchiha Madara. Has the alliance become so strong? Cheers for the heroes who brought victory. Salute the leaders who brought change. Although Uchiha Madara wasn't in his prime, he was besieged by everyone, and he lost his mind in the final stage. He was still Uchiha Madara after all. Just this point alone was enough to make them jump for joy. Even Boruto was infected by this emotion and cheered loudly. Looking at the sea of cheers around him, middle-aged Sasuke couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Only one victory is enough to make the spirit of self-improvement and self-confidence deeply rooted in people's hearts. In terms of spirit, chi and spirit, this spacetime is much better than my world. At this moment, a gentle greeting came from the side. What do you think of the Jonin exam? Very good. Middle-aged Sasuke answered subconsciously, and then he was suddenly shocked. Someone quietly came to his side. Fortunately, he quickly reacted and shouted with surprise and joy. Garashi-sama. Hearing Sasuke's voice, Boruto turned his head curiously. Are you the great leader they are talking about? It's me, but I can't be called great. Garashi said with a smile. If even you, Garashi-sama, can't be called great, then no one in this world can be called great. Middle-aged Sasuke said righteously. In the past he only knew about Shushi's contributions to their world, but after chatting with the old man just now, he learned more about Shushi. As a result, his respect for Shushi grew even stronger. Boruto nodded again and again. Even with his lawless character, when encountering such a truly respectable hero, he didn't dare to be rude. Garashi shook his head slightly and looked around with a smile. The truly great people are here. It is these kind, simple, hard-working and brave people who support this world. People. Middle-aged Sasuke muttered to himself, and then noticed the strangeness of the people around him. He saw that everyone was still cheering, and no one noticed the movement here at all, as if they were drifting away from the world. What are they doing? Garashi smiled and said, I overlapped the time and space where the three of us are in with the dream world, so they can't see us. Middle-aged Sasuke was shocked. He only knew one jutsu that could convert illusion and reality, and that was Izanagi. But Garashi-sama did something similar without any burden. Without waiting for him to finish sighing, Garashi took the initiative to ask, Sasuke, how did you come here? Chapter 534. Regarding this, Garashi was indeed puzzled. The Ryumayaku passage was under his control. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any transmigration. Moreover, the decadent middle-aged Sasuke in front of him was obviously the future version of Sasuke Uchiha in the parallel world. Could it be that because I maintain the connection between the two dimensions, and with me as a spacetime variable, the parallel world can only go back to the time node where I'm at? If it goes back, it will be directed to the time and space where I'm at? His understanding of this was that two parallel rivers intersected because of a river channel. Then, from this river channel, one only went upstream and the other only went downstream. It was similar to the shape of the word swastika without the upper right side. The middle-aged Sasuke did not notice Garashi's abnormality and explained seriously, we went back to the past through the Otsutsuki clan's spacetime relic called Plow, which was left in the deep sea. Due to the experience of World War IV, he was not worried that Garashi could not understand Otsutsuki's meaning. Spacetime relic Plow? Garashi asked in surprise. Is it similar to the relic of Rikudo Sennin? Bodo took out a pink little turtle from his arms. It may be more magical because it's alive. Can I have a look? Garashi asked curiously. Of course. Bodo handed the turtle to Garashi. It's just that after we transmigrated, it fell into a deep sleep. Deep sleep? Garashi observed the turtle in his hand carefully. Suddenly, an extremely powerful chakra was released from his body. Like a traveler who had been thirsty in the desert for a few days, the little turtle hungrily absorbed the chakra around it. Soon, the little turtle's limbs regained their vitality. Spacetime relic plow. I'm happy to serve you. Bodo suddenly realized. So, it's because there's no electricity. What an interesting creation. Garashi played with it for a while and returned the little turtle. Can you tell me in which part of the deep sea it was found? Bo Rin said in surprise. This was found by the archaeological team. We don't know where the archaeological team found it. The middle-aged Sasuke added, it seems that only the Otsutsuki clan can unlock its seal. Before Otsutsuki Urustyle unlocks its seal, we don't know its purpose, and we don't pay enough attention to its origin. Garashi pretended to be surprised and asked, the Great Mappu style? The middle-aged Sasuke said with a solemn expression, Otsutsuki appeared in our era again. Like the previous bordered soil Uchiha Madara, they once again targeted Naruto. It's just that their strength seems to be slightly inferior to Uchiha Madara. After we defeated 2 of them, the remaining Otsutsuki decided to go back to the time when Naruto was still weak to capture him. Garashi had a strange look in his eyes. You and Naruto's strength still maintain the level after the end of the Fourth World War? The middle-aged Sasuke smiled bitterly. Compared with the past, both of our strengths have regressed a lot, especially me. I may have inherited Kakashi-sensei's physical weakness. Now, I can't use chakra with just a few ninjutsu. Garashi's mouth twitched. Could it be that Sakura was squeezing them? Thinking of some disharmony, Garashi quickly abandoned the distracting thoughts. Then how did they do it? 2 of them were killed by you guys who had regressed in strength? He guessed that these later Otsutsuki might be a little weak, but he didn't expect them to be weak to this extent. Those were 3 pure-blooded Otsutsuki. In his limited knowledge, which one of the Otsutsuki wasn't powerful? Not to mention Kagaya and Ichiki, even the Rikudo brothers and Tonari, who had undergone atavistic transformation, were extremely powerful. Pinching the moon and cutting the moon was like playing a game. How could these 3 Otsutsuki be so weak? Could it be that something happened to the Otsutsuki clan, causing their overall strength to be weaker than before? Garashi's eyes narrowed slightly. If this was the case, then his idea of counterattacking the Otsutsuki clan might really be possible. So, the key at present is to capture Otsutsuki Urushi alive and get information about the Otsutsuki clan from him. The middle-aged Sasuke didn't know what Garashi was thinking and said awkwardly. Maybe they were careless? Boruto on the side was a little dissatisfied. Urushi should be very strong. He can freely switch between Byakugan and Rinnegan, master a powerful space ability, and it seems that even time ninjutsu is involved. Garashi was a little surprised. This is somewhat similar to Itachi's ability. Itachi? His ability isn't. The middle-aged Sasuke was shocked at first, and then immediately reacted. By the way, Sharingan is the eye of the soul. Since the process of opening the Sharingan is different, the awakened dojutsu will of course be different. Itachi? Uncle's brother? Boruto muttered in his heart and then asked with some expectation, Garashi-sama, can you help us deal with Otsutsuki Urushi? Without waiting for the middle-aged Sasuke to reprimand him, Garashi laughed. Of course, I said at the beginning of the alliance that I will never let the people of the alliance be bullied by outsiders, even if he is Otsutsuki. Boruto's eyes were full of little stars. Garashi-sama is so cool. Saint inside and king outside, this is Garashi-sama's ninja path. The middle-aged Sasuke sighed in his heart, looked up and said, I'm sorry to trouble you, Garashi-sama. No, I want to thank you for sending me the real question of the 3rd exam. Garashi smiled. Using Otsutsuki as the exam question. The middle-aged Sasuke praised Garashi's courage in his heart, and then heard Garashi ask, your left hand. The middle-aged Sasuke was a little embarrassed. Garashi-sama, after you left that year, Naruto and I had a fight because of differences in philosophy, and we both lost an arm in the end. You're really worrisome. Garashi shook his head and sighed. Give me your left hand and I'll help you heal it. Help me heal it? By the way, you also know Yin-Yang release. The middle-aged Sasuke woke up from a dream, but immediately shook his head. This broken hand is my atonement so that I can always remember the mistakes I made in the past. Listening to Uncle's words, Garashi-sama really has the ability to help people regenerate limbs. Boruto was overjoyed, but when he heard the last part, he hurriedly said, make up for your mistakes. Isn't it better to atone for your sins by repairing your broken hand? Garashi laughed. See, you're not as sensible as the younger generation. Since we have to face a strong enemy, of course we have to adjust our state to the best possible state. Or do you think that your hypocrisy is more important than the safety of the world? At this point, the middle-aged Sasuke could only smile bitterly and reach out his hand. Then I'll have to trouble Garashi-sama. With Garashi's current ability, even if he didn't use the power of the truth-seeking ball, he could use Yin-Yang release and easily repair Sasuke's broken hand. Chapter 535. It really grew out. Bodo shouted excitedly. The middle-aged Sasuke clenched his fist somewhat awkwardly and "Thank you, Garashi-sama." "You're welcome." Garashi patted him on the shoulder. "I know you have a lot of regrets. Here, you can try to experience a different life and treat all of this as a beautiful dream. Forget your troubles for the time being before you wake up from the dream." "A dream?" The middle-aged Sasuke was absent-minded for a while. Seeing that Sasuke was confused, Garashi smiled and removed the overlap between the dream and reality. When the surrounding noise reached the two's ears again, Garashi had already disappeared. Staring at the place where Garashi disappeared, Bodo suddenly clapped his hands. "I understand." As expected of Garashi-sama. The middle-aged Sasuke woke up from his absent-minded state. "What did you understand?" Bodo analyzed seriously. "Since Garashi-sama can see through our whereabouts, maybe he has noticed the existence of the Otsutsuki from the beginning. That's why he deliberately set up these two tests. The written test is to interrogate one's heart. Through the last question, everyone will know that retreating won't solve the problem. It will only let the enemy see through their weakness and continue to devour them. The dream trial is to test their courage. At the same time, it will let them know that as long as everyone works together, no matter how powerful the enemy is, it is possible to defeat them. After they pass these two tests, they will no longer have to face the interrogation of words and the trial of dreams. Instead, they will have to face the real threat of death. They will turn the verbal and illusory tests into reality." The middle-aged Sasuke nodded in agreement and praised, as expected of Garashi-sama. "When we jumped out of the limits of our vision, we found that he was already standing at the height of the 4th or 5th level. While the two of them were deeply impressed by Garashi's ability to look up high, drill through strong, look ahead, and suddenly be behind, Garashi had already teleported to the boundless sea. If I can study the time-space attribute noble phantasm thoroughly, I might be able to develop my time-type ability," Garashi thought to himself. It had to be said that the difficulty of developing time-related abilities was too high. Even at his current height, coupled with the fact that his doppelganger and main body were constantly experiencing different flows of time, there was still a long way to go before he could fully comprehend the power of time. Of course, this was also because he had spent most of his time on developing the blood inheritance net. Garashi shook his head and stopped thinking about it. "Let's start looking." Although it was like looking for a needle in a haystack, he had deliberately recorded the aura of the plow when he asked for it from the bow people. As long as he followed the aura with his perception range, he should be able to search for a few days and nights without rest. 3 days later. In front of Minato's house, Naruto held a piece of bread in his mouth and waved behind him. "Mom, I'm leaving." Shina Kushina, who was dressed like a housewife, was standing in front of the door. "Be careful on the road." "Got it," Bodo, who was standing not far away, muttered to himself. "I heard that Grandpa in this world rarely went home before Dad was 7 years old. After becoming Naruto, he was very busy, but Dad has never been as troubled as I am." The middle-aged Sasuke nodded slightly. "This is where Naruto is stronger than you. Whether it's the suffering of that world or the longing of this world, he has never been a person who complains." "Never complains?" Bodo recalled that because he lacked the company of his father, he often said that he hated being born in the Naruto family. He couldn't help but reflect. Maybe I'm too willful. If you look at it from Dad's point of view. At this time, Naruto noticed Bodo's existence and took the initiative to run towards his good friend whom he had just met a few days ago. "Bodo." Naruto trotted all the way and looked at the decadent middle-aged man standing beside Bodo, who seemed to be very close to him. He asked subconsciously, "Bodo, is this uncle your father?" "Ahem." Bodo and the middle-aged Sasuke coughed wildly. "What is this?" Naruto took the initiative to wear a hat of a certain color? "If Sakura knows." Thinking of a terrible possibility, the middle-aged Sasuke quickly explained, "I'm Bodo's uncle." "Oh, is that so?" Naruto didn't think much and asked, "Bodo, did you come here to watch me take the exam?" Bodo nodded and gave him a thumbs up. "Well, I believe you can definitely become a jounin. Although Dad, you've always been a genin in our world," Bodo said and secretly complained. "Of course, I'm going to become Naruto's man." The two talked and laughed along the way. Suddenly the alarm on the street went off. "Oh no. Did that guy appear?" Both Bodo and the middle-aged Sasuke looked around nervously. Naruto glanced suspiciously at the place where the alarm came from, and the corner of his eyes twitched. I seem to know what's going on. Come with me. The three of them walked around a street. They saw a dozen Umbu ninjas forcing a man with snake eyes into a corner. Spreading obscene books and disturbing public order. Jiraiya-sama, please come with us. The man with snake eyes said discontentedly. First, I'm just here to buy experimental materials. I don't know anything about obscene books. Second, can't you see who I am? The leader of the Umbu ninjas sighed. Jiraiya-sama, can't you change the scourge to someone else? Orochimaru-sama has complained, and now there are fanatical fans writing letters to him. What? The man with snake eyes suddenly became anxious. Those letters are for me. Before his voice fell, Jiraiya saw everyone's smiling eyes and couldn't help but gnash his teeth. You dare to trick me? No, those letters are real. The Umbu ninja sighed again. I have to say, your fans are probably the most polite and sticky fans of your books. Jiraiya laughed proudly. Aha, good writing is like this. Everyone was speechless. As long as it's an obscene book, those LSPs are polite to anyone. Well, Jiraiya-sama, please come with us to the prison. With Skynet, I'm sure you won't make it difficult for us. Skynet is too unfree. Jiraiya first complained loudly, then raised his hand to surrender. You can arrest me, but you can't extinguish my fiery creative heart. When Jiraiya was caught in the police car, Orochi laughed twice. Is this the legendary hero Jiraiya-sama? Ha ha ha, what a surprise. Middle-aged Sasuke wasn't surprised and just asked. Skynet, what's that? Naruto already knew from Orochi that they had just returned to civilized society, so he wasn't surprised. This is a network created by Leader Sama with the Dream World as the cornerstone. It can monitor the entire alliance. Once something bad happens, the law enforcement department can even use the Dream World to instantly reach any node covered by the network. No wonder we were noticed by Garashi-sama. Middle-aged Sasuke suddenly realized. Orochi sighed. Amazing, no wonder the security of the alliance is so good. Naruto proudly puffed out his chest. Of course. Leader Sama's creation is of course amazing. I also heard that in the future the places covered by the Dream World can even save the process of paying money. The three talked and laughed all the way to the central tower. At the same time, Otsutsuki Urushi, who was hiding not far away, curled his lips. What rubbish, Skynet, I didn't see it discover me. However, this guy is really cautious. He's actually protecting you. Urushi rolled his eyes. This kid is going to fight in the ring, right? When he enters the ring, Uchiha Sasuke will definitely not be able to follow. That's the best time for me to make a move. Chapter 536. In front of the central tower, the crowd was crowded like a tide. For people who are a little dull in their daily life, this Jonin exam is undoubtedly the best tonic for them. Even those who are not interested in fighting gathered here at this moment, excitedly discussing with their companions who is most likely to win in the end. Fortunately, the central tower was rebuilt from the original Forest of Death. It's wide enough to accommodate hundreds of thousands of people after entering the spectator area. Will the third round of the exam be held in reality? I thought it would be like the last round of the exam in the dream world. After all, virtual is virtual. No matter how real it is, it's not as exciting as fighting in reality. Besides, this time there are 10 elders watching the battle. Even if they are really angry, they can stop it in time. Are you sure? What if Deidara self-destructs? You're making me panic. In this noisy voice, Naruto and the other two entered the tower. It's so lively. There are so many people. Boruto looked around in shock. A grand arena that can accommodate hundreds of thousands of people at the same time? This is unimaginable in his world. Naruto said with pride. Since the leader shouted the slogan, Chakra goes to the countryside, ninjutsu prospers the country, the mountains and deserts have been transformed into farmland, which greatly meets people's material needs. That's why the leader Sama proposed that we can't fall behind in our spiritual pursuit. He specially built this grand arena to allow the various ninja villages to form combat teams and participate in the tournament. He even broadcast the tournament through the dream world so that everyone can watch. Now, the most popular people in the alliance besides the leader are those who have the most outstanding performance in the tournament. Last month, Tsuchikage and Reikage couldn't resist the temptation and fought. The middle-aged Sasuke was surprised. No wonder the fighting atmosphere in the alliance is so strong 5 years after the war ended. Boruto asked doubtfully. Won't they break their hands and feet or even die? Naruto said indifferently. With the leader here, even if they break their hands and feet, even if they die. At this moment, the middle-aged Sasuke's face suddenly changed. Hiding. How come that guy is here? Although Fei Duan was not strong, Sea of Death's ability to rely on blood was too strange. Furthermore, he was in the middle of a crowd, so he could not help but feel nervous. Naruto looked at where his eyes were focused and suddenly laughed. Oh, you're talking about the Repeater King. The middle-aged Sasuke's mouth twitched. What king did you say? Repeater King. Naruto was amazed. Big brother was in school when I was born and he's still in school now. I heard that he was instilled with a lot of extreme thoughts by the evil cult when he was young. Although he was much better after being reformed, he never scored more than double digits in the Will of Fire before the establishment of the Alliance and the thought of a leader after the establishment of the Alliance. That's why he was held back until now. Hearing this, the middle-aged Sasuke was dumbfounded. Looking at Haiden, who was sitting in the audience with a book in his hand, he couldn't help but feel that life was really wonderful. When the time came, the third Naruto Sarutobi, who is now the dean of the Ninja University, gave a long speech and the game finally began. The first game, Chajuru against Kankuro, please get ready. Fortunately, the person fighting Uncle Chajuru isn't a genin. Borin whispered. What did you say? Naruto didn't hear him clearly. Nothing, let's watch the game. After 8 rounds of battle. The 9th game, Uzumaki Naruto against Uchiha Sasuke, please get ready. What? Me and Sasuke. Naruto's spirit was lifted, and his eyes instantly met Sasuke in another direction. Dad and Uncle. Bo-Rin muttered in a low voice. Then he cursed in his heart, this battle order is too unintelligent. Dad and Uncle are obviously the strongest among the candidates, yet they've already met in the first round. Soon, Sasuke and Naruto jumped out of the arena from the audience. I didn't expect the two of us to meet so soon, Naruto said excitedly. But even if it's you, I won't go easy. Go easy? Sasuke seemed to have heard something funny and laughed wildly. You don't even have time to refine Senjutsu chakra in the arena. What do you have to fight me? Naruto touched his nose embarrassedly. But I have a cheat. Sasuke's laughter stagnated, and he looked at Naruto in shock. You can use Kyuubi? Naruto smiled. Bijou is originally a part of Jinchuriki. Just think of Kyuubi as my summoned beast. Sasuke's little face was almost distorted. No matter how arrogant he was, he couldn't think that he was stronger than Naruto and Kyuubi. You're bullying me because I don't have Mangekyo. Thinking of the nightmare eye opening technique that Sensei told him, he was a little tempted. Seeing this, Naruto smiled. I'll stop teasing you. In fact, I don't want to directly turn into a Bijou, but I want Kurama to help me refine Senjutsu chakra. Are you kidding me? Sasuke's face became gloomier. Sorry. After all, it takes some time for Kurama to refine Senjutsu chakra, so I can only delay it. Naruto said and clapped his hands. Sage mode. A powerful aura burst out from Naruto's body. With Kyuubi's help to refine Senjutsu chakra, it meant that he could maintain Sage mode for a long time. Good. You usually look honest, but I didn't expect you to be so good at deceiving people. Sasuke was ashamed. He couldn't accept that he was deceived by Naruto. With that said, Sasuke's body flashed with lightning and electric snakes swam. He entered Raitun chakra mode. Not only that, he also took out a large number of needles from the tool bag at his waist and shot them around. Then 2 tomo appeared in his pupils. Although he didn't experience any pain, Garashi has been using Mokutan and chakra to nourish his eyes. In a neutral and peaceful way, his eyes were upgraded to the level of 2 tomo. Raitun chakra mode activates the body, Flying Thunder God Jutsu time travel, and dynamic vision of Sharingan. These 3 can be said to be a perfect combination. The middle-aged Sasuke in the audience was surprised. This combination is too suitable for assassination. If he had this combination back then, even if Itachi didn't go easy on him, he was confident that he could defeat Itachi in that battle. What the hell? How can a 12 or 13-year-old kid be so strong? Pooh Sure, who was hiding in the dark, stared, wondering if he had entered hell mode. Bear with it for a while. I'll take them down when both sides are injured. Chapter 537. On the ring, Naruto didn't attack directly. Although he had Kurama Edition, his stamina wasn't endless, and Sasuke had Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Naturally, he couldn't use chakra to crush his opponent like he usually did. You're really cautious. Seeing that Naruto didn't intend to take the initiative, Sasuke formed hand seals with both hands. lightning blade in his left hand and flame blade in his right hand. Senjutsu, Odama Rasengan. Naruto raised his right hand high, and a small meteorite-like energy ball quickly formed in his hand. If Sasuke is a skill-based assassin, then he's a steamroll-style cannon. He didn't need any fancy skills, he just needed to attack. Seeing the two using big moves as soon as they entered the ring, the surrounding civilians and ordinary Chunin and Genin cheered at the top of their lungs. The crowd was also shocked. Although they already knew that these two weren't simple from the battle 3 days ago, it was still shocking to see them in real life. Are the new generation of ninjas already so strong? For a moment they all felt abandoned by the era. On the ring, the two roared and rushed to each other. Naruto. Sasuke. However, just when they were about to hit each other, Sasuke suddenly disappeared. He used Flying Thunder God Jutsu to move to the closest needle to Naruto and stab Naruto's back. I've been waiting for you. Naruto quickly turned around and pressed down Odama Rasengan. Boom. A powerful shockwave wrapped in a gust of wind raged around, hitting the invisible barrier. The invisible barrier trembled lightly. In the eyes of everyone, it was as if the space was trembling, making everyone exclaim. The dust dissipated, and a huge pit appeared in the center of the two's battle. Naruto and Sasuke didn't stop for a moment, and they fought fiercely again. Katan. Grand Fire Annihilation. Senjutsu, Odama Rasengan. Raitan. Chidori Spear. Senjutsu, Odama Rasengan. Ninjutsu, Lightning Fire Tornado. Senjutsu, Odama. No matter what kind of attack Sasuke used, Naruto almost always countered with Odama Rasengan, occasionally mixed with a few futon, Rasen Shuriken. If it was a regular exam, Sasuke, who mastered all kinds of gorgeous ninjutsu, and even those jutsu completion rate, would undoubtedly be the focus of the crowd. But the problem was, this was an actual battle. Sasuke's gorgeous attack was suppressed by Naruto's simple and unadorned meatballs. This scene made many people speechless. Chikarato is really amazing. However, Naruto was not relaxed ninjutsu. Ninjutsu, ninjutsu, jutsu, 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 ohat. Jutsus, is jutsu, tease fight, s's. If he had half of Naruto's chakra? No, as long as he had 1/5 of Naruto's chakra, there would be no suspense in this battle. Of course he regretted it, but he wasn't jealous. Just as his talent was in technique, Naruto was chakra. Naruto, I only have one more chakra, but it'll be my strongest attack. Sasuke reminded. Don't worry, I won't underestimate you. Naruto was fully alert. At this moment, a red fishing line passed through the barrier and fell from the sky. It was a light line, but it pierced Naruto's body like an arrow. Puff. Naruto spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Sasuke in shock and admiration. Amazing. I've been vigilant, but I still didn't see how you did it. That's because I haven't made my move yet. Sasuke looked around angrily. Who the hell is it? At first no one reacted. This is the central tower, the heart of the alliance, where the strongest forces in the world gathered. Subconsciously they didn't think anyone would dare to cause trouble here. Until Sasuke roared, they couldn't believe it. What? Someone dared to intervene in the Jonin exam and seriously injure the candidates? Who did it? Do they want to die? Not only do they want to die, maybe they'll be like Uchiha Madara, whose soul won't be reincarnated. A space portal appeared above the ring, and a strange man with a red fishing basket behind him walked out. Pusher pulled the fishing line and pulled Naruto to his side. I finally caught this big fish. Damn it. Sasuke was a step slower. He planned to use heavenly hand power to exchange Naruto and the others. But the problem is, it's too dangerous to exchange innocent people with Pusher. What if Pusher got angry and killed that person? Because of this, he was a step slower. Bodo pulled his clothes and said anxiously, "Uncle, save my father." Seeing Naruto and Bodo sitting together, Hinata, who was quietly sitting 2 rows behind them, heard this voice and felt like she was struck by lightning. Hinata was in a trance. Dad? Naruto-kun has a son? Seeing the critical situation, Sasuke didn't care so much and had to find the thickest person in his impression to exchange. The next moment, Raikage, who was angrily slamming the table, was hung on the red fishing hook, looking at Pusher in front of him with a dumbfounded expression. I also awakened the space ability? Pusher didn't care about Raikage, he just looked at the middle-aged Sasuke in the crowd with a grin. A fisherman won't fail twice in the same river. You'd better look at who you exchanged with. Sasuke subconsciously looked at Naruto, who was on the judging panel, and then saw Naruto, who was transferred by him, turned into a red light. Pusher laughed loudly. You should dig out your eyes as soon as possible. You can't even see my 1,000-paper crane clone. Damn it. Sasuke cursed unwillingly. Uncle, do it again. Bodo egged him on. Okay, Sasuke said with a painful cry, covering his left eye and gasping violently. No, I'm at my limit, and chakra is also used up. Bodo's eyes were blank. The younger version of his uncle used so many ninjutsu, but he was only about to run out of chakra. Uncle, how come you don't have chakra after using dojutsu once? Noticing the middle-aged Sasuke's strangeness, Pusher laughed. You're really getting weaker and weaker. Do you need me to lend you some chakra? You. Sasuke was angry and suddenly laughed. You don't seem to be any better than me. You didn't even notice that the fish ran away. What? Pusher was shocked and hurriedly turned his head to look, and found that Naruto was gone. Damn it, who is it? Sasuke stood on the judging panel and waved his hand. Here. It's you. Pusher looked over and asked in surprise. How is it possible? I clearly cleared the needles around you. You shouldn't be able to use Flying Thunder God. Sasuke's face darkened. That's because I left a jutsu on Naruto's body. Pusher asked in disbelief. You left a jutsu on him? Then why didn't you use it during the battle? Of course it's because I planned to save it for the last blow. This trick won't work if you're on guard. Sasuke scolded angrily. And you idiot exposed me. Neji in the audience was stunned. I thought Naruto was very insidious. It turns out that Sasuke is even more insidious. Wait, he didn't secretly leave a jutsu on me, did he? Thinking of this, Neji quickly touched himself. Chapter 538. At this time, many people noticed the conversation between Pusher and Sasuke. Did this guy exchange Raikage-sama? Do they know each other? These two guys don't look simple, but why haven't I seen them before? Raikage also understood the fact from the conversation between the two, that is, he didn't awaken the space ability, but he was swapped by the decadent man's space ability. Thinking of this, he was about to explode. Uzumaki Naruto is Naruto's son. Why didn't you exchange Namikaze's Minato for me? The most important thing is, he was hung on the hook in such a humiliating position for people to admire. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Raikage directly pulled the red light hook out of his body, lifted his sandbag-sized fist and waved it at Pusher. Bastard, die. Seeing Raikage's angry fist, Pusher remembered the last Raikage's level and couldn't help but contemptuously raise his right hand. Come on, you're weak. Before he finished his words, he flew out like a cannonball, slamming heavily on the wall, making the entire arena tremble slightly. Seeing this, everyone in the spectator seats had a strange expression on their faces. Daring to destroy the Jonin exam in public, and this is the result? Using his body to take Raikage-sama's attack, how stupid is he? It seems that it's not a conspiracy, he's just stupid. The Bo people in the audience were very surprised. Was it an illusion? Why does it feel like the fourth Raikage is much stronger than the fifth Raikage? Sasuke's pupils shrank. In terms of time, it should be 3 years before the 5 Kage tournament, but the power of this punch is definitely stronger than the one Raikage used at that time. But soon he figured it out. After all, this world has Garashi-sama, even I can be strengthened like this, so it's understandable that Raikage is strengthened too. Pusher jumped out of the hole in the wall and his face was a little embarrassed. I deliberately let you hit me and the result is like this, it doesn't hurt at all. Seeing this, many people's expressions became serious. He took Raikage's heavy punch without any defense, but he didn't seem to be injured, not to mention his strength, just his physical strength is amazing. It doesn't hurt or itch, right? Raikage's eyes widened in anger as he raised his fist and rushed forward. However, Pusher easily dodged his attack this time, and then sent Raikage flying with a Shinra Tensei. Shinra Tensei. This ability made many people stand up from their seats in shock. Raikage jumped down from the wall and was ready to rush up again. Raikage, please wait a moment. Minato stood up from the judge's table, looked at Pusher with a solemn expression and asked, Who are you? Why can you use the Rinnegan when you have the Byakugan? At this time, everyone also noticed the pure white pupils of the other party, which is the characteristic of the Hyuga clan. Many old people even thought of the 5 Kage summit 9 years ago. At that time, the people who had helped Akatsuki to stop their leader had also rolled their eyes. Rinnegan? Are you talking about this? Pusher smiled and switched his Byakugan to blue Rinnegan. Can the Byakugan also evolve into Rinnegan? Everyone was puzzled. They remembered that Uchiha Madara seemed to be able to freely switch between Rinnegan and Sharingan. At that time, They thought that the principle of switching between Sharingan and Manjikyu Sharingan was the same. Without waiting for everyone to ask, Pushur continued, "As for my identity, oh, I am a man from the sky who came to this world to pick the fruit." A man from the sky? The moon? Minato frowned and asked. A frog at the bottom of the well can't see the sea. Pushur sneered, "With your knowledge you can only say such things. Listen, I come from the distant star Jupiter, and the land under your feet is the ranch where my clan used to graze." When his voice fell, the entire arena was in an uproar. This guy means that he is an alien? He looks really strange. Ratch. I hope it's not what I think it is. Because this era seemed to be a little different from what he expected. Pushur wasn't in a hurry to start again. He put the red light fishing rod on his shoulder and said, "It was Otsutsuki who brought chakra to this world, and the ancestors of ninjas and the gods of creation in your mythical records are actually people of my clan, but they betrayed Otsutsuki and turned this world from a ranch to what it is today. By the way, the tailed beasts you were afraid of are actually part of a monster called the Jubi, and the Jubi is just a pet of my clan." Except for a small number of people who were afraid, most people were skeptical. What he said was too bizarre and preposterous. Minato looked dignified, and suddenly a voice sounded in his heart. He quickly stretched his eyebrows and stood up and said, "He is right, Otsutsuki is such a powerful clan. Even the Senju clan, Uchiha clan, and Hyuga clan are descendants who inherited their bloodline." The other four Kages looked at him with some surprise, and seemed to think of something but didn't speak. Hearing Naruto's confirmation, the whole arena was boiling like a pot of boiling soup. What? There really is such a powerful clan. Senju, Uchiha, Hyuga, these are already the strongest clans in the ninja world, right? No wonder Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara were so powerful. Chakra is actually the power they brought. This is really? Pushur looked at Minato with a little surprise and then smiled. "My strength is already stronger than all of you, and there are hundreds of people like me in my clan." Reikage couldn't help but mock. "You are stronger than all of us?" Pushur chuckled. "Oh, don't think that what I just showed is my true strength. Every real Otsutsuki is a natural god, and mortals like you may not be able to reach our starting point even if you work hard all your life. Let me tell you, if I go all out, I can sink 1/3 of the continent in less than an hour. Those who understand the meaning of Otsutsuki should know that I am not lying." Hearing this, people panicked again. Destroy the world? Is he still a human? No wonder he calls himself a god. This kind of power is really terrible. However, the 5 Kages on the judges' table secretly muttered, "Sinking 1/3 of the continent in less than an hour? It seems like it's just SOSO." They privately asked Garashi about his true strength, and the answer they got was, he can no longer use his full strength on this land. Chapter 539. However, their silent expressions made Pushur think that they were afraid. Pushur laughed out loud. "Now, you should be able to understand a little bit of our gap." Minato asked in a deep voice, "In that case, why would a Protoss like you want to catch Naruto?" Pushur shrugged. "Didn't you hear me? The 9 Bijou are part of the Jubi. Although the Jubi is just a pet for us, it's not something you mortals can touch. Now can you please step aside? Give him to me and you can avoid the outbreak of war." For a while, everyone's eyes were focused on Naruto. For many people, sending out a single person in exchange for the peace of a war, it was really worth it. However, Naruto was Naruto's son after all, and this practice was contrary to mainstream public opinion. So no one spoke for the time being. Seeing the scene suddenly fall into a strange silence, Pushur looked at Naruto with a smile. "At this time, shouldn't you take the initiative to stand up and die? It's too selfish to put the whole world in danger for yourself." As his voice fell, Naruto suddenly felt the pressure on his back suddenly increased many times, as if every gaze looking at him was full of malice. Although those people didn't dare to make their voices loud, they still had the courage to stir up resonance by whispering. "Although it's a bit too much, it's better for one person to die than a group of people to die, right? Yes, isn't the duty of a ninja to sacrifice himself?" Boruto was furious. "These people are too hateful, I want to." The middle-aged Sasuke held him down. "Wait, don't ruin Garashi-sama's exam." "Exam, huh? Uncle, you mean Garashi-sama is paying attention to this place?" Pushur, that idiot, was probably noticed by Garashi-sama as soon as he stepped into the alliance. Then why didn't Garashi-sama come out? Boruto was puzzled. "I guess it should be that Garashi-sama wants to use Pushur to awaken everyone's sense of crisis," the middle-aged Sasuke said. Naruto clenched his fists. Without waiting for Naruto to finish, Sasuke took a few steps forward. He didn't look at Urashi, but coldly glanced at the place where the sound came from. A group of cowards trash. The more guilty a person was, the easier it was for them to be angered by such simple words. Many people immediately cursed out loud. Uchiha brat, what did you say? You said that because he's your friend, right? Sasuke said disdainfully. Am I wrong? He doesn't dare to swing his sword at the enemy and instead sends his own comrades to their deaths. This kind of person is the worst kind of trash. You're speaking so generously now, but it's only because you don't feel the pain. But think about it, if he can kill Naruto today, he can kill you tomorrow. At that time, do you think anyone will stand up for you? I don't ask you cowards to stand up, but at least shut your mouths when we protect the alliance. Sasuke felt refreshed. He looked back and saw Naruto's eyes flashing with light. He quickly turned his head. Also, no matter who he calls to die, my answer is the same. It has nothing to do with the identity of the person he calls. After Sasuke stood up, many of the new generation of ninjas also stood up one after another. Yes. Ninjas are no longer the tools that can be sacrificed at will. We are also people and soldiers who defend the alliance. Don't you feel ashamed to let the people who protect you die? Neji felt the same way. His father was almost sacrificed as a tool back then. It was only because Garashi-sama stood up that he was spared. Jinchuriki, as a container to seal the bijou, suffered pain and pressure that shouldn't be there in order to protect you. What about you? You're repaying him with discarded victims? Gaara said with a frosty expression. Well said, these guys are simply defective products. Compared with our works of art, it's simply disgusting. Deidara said. We should use artistic means to humanely destroy them. That's not necessary. More and more people stood up, and the voices at the beginning gradually died down and finally became inaudible. Naruto was moved. He seemed to have found his life's goal, to protect everyone and fight to change the unreasonable world. The 5 Kages above were also emotional. Inoki sighed. Those traditional decadent ideas will eventually be replaced by new ideas full of vitality. Raza exclaimed. Fools resist the world, smart people adapt to the world, and great people change the world. Empress Shomiai looked at him strangely. The Kazekage's flattery skill has improved again. It has reached the point of silently moistening things. But he's right. This is the future of this world. Middle-aged Sasuke sighed and patted Bodo's shoulder. Come on, it's time to end this controversy. Bodo stood up excitedly and said loudly, don't you think about why he wants Naruto's chakra? Why does he say this is a ranch? The reason is that he wants to use the fused Jubi to swallow the entire world's chakra. At that time, everyone will die. What? Is what he said true? Everyone looked at Pushur in shock and anger. With Otsutsuki's arrogance, Pushur naturally disdained to lie to them. Hiding part of the truth like before was already his limit. Achiki-senpai really messed up this world. Isn't it better to kneel and beg us to eat you like in other worlds? Everyone was silent for a moment, and anger erupted like a volcano. Bastard. Who wants to be eaten by monsters like you? Don't even think about leaving here today. Seeing this, many candidates recalled the last question of the first exam, and they couldn't help but feel surprised. Sure enough, peace can only be won by fighting. As expected of Leader Sama, he foresaw such a thing happening early on. Then, next is the verification of the second exam, right? As long as we work together, there is no enemy we can't defeat. Seeing the excitement of the crowd, Pushur smiled and said, so, ignorance is a kind of happiness. You fight with all your strength, but in the end, you can only be eaten by Jubi in despair. It's better to not know anything from the beginning and wait for the joy of being eaten by Jubi. Minato said firmly, we will never lose. Behind us are our beloved family, our home, and a civilization that has lasted for thousands of years. We will let you know that a mortal's body can also kill the gods in the sky. A mortal's body can kill gods? Pushur laughed. Let's go with your ignorant fantasy. What about after defeating me? I have hundreds of clansmen behind me and each of them rules a world. Do you want to fight with us who rule hundreds of worlds with the heritage of a single world? A mantis trying to stop a chariot, overestimating yourself. Chapter 540. Pushur's words were like a dark cloud pressing down on everyone's hearts. If what he said was true, then how could they fight such a powerful enemy? Was there any meaning to a hopeless future? For a moment, confusion and fear shrouded everyone's heart. But at this moment, a firm and steady voice resounded through the sky. Don't worry, I'm here. Hearing this voice, everyone cheered up, as if they had found their backbone and instantly found their direction. It's the leader. Yes, there's still the leader. The leader has never let us down. We don't need to think so much at all. We just need to believe in the leader and follow behind him. Pooh Shi's frivolous expression became dignified for the first time. He just stood up and said a few words casually without even making any guarantees, and these humans were no longer confused and hesitant. This kind of powerful leadership and cohesion was really shocking. In the records of the Otsutsuki family, this kind of person was called a prophet, a hero, a liberator. But no matter what kind of record it came from, the evaluation of this kind of person in the family was to be eradicated immediately. This was because the existence of this kind of person would awaken the spirit of a race. Many colonial planets under their rule had suffered heavy losses because of ignoring these people. Indeed, as they hoped, Garashi said, I've known about the threat of the Otsutsuki for a long time, and what I want to tell you now is that you don't have to worry at all. The Otsutsuki are powerful, but their strength has long been solidified, and we are rising like a new star. Compared to 5 years ago, the overall strength of the alliance has more than doubled. When the next 5-year plan is completed, there will be another round of leaps and bounds in our strength. When our strength increases again and again, the one who should be afraid should be the Otsutsuki. No matter what happens, you just need to advance and retreat with me, and we will be invincible in front of us. Hearing Garashi's words, everyone felt their blood boiling, and all kinds of unknown howls came from their mouths. Some people even beat their chests as if this was the only way to vent their inner excitement. As expected of Garashi, a few words dispelled the fear in everyone's hearts and even turned this fear into motivation. Minato praised in his heart. He thought of the telepathic message that Garashi had given him before. It's better to let it out than to block it. The more you hide it, the more everyone will be afraid. It's better to put everything on the table and use absolute momentum to overcome fear. No wonder he became the world's #1 more than 10 years ago, but he never stopped moving forward. Is it because he's carrying such heavy pressure? Reikage looked at Shushi's back with burning eyes. No wonder he's my opponent. Too cool, Lord Garashi is really too cool. Borin excitedly punched the air in front of him to vent the excitement in his heart. I'm going to copy down Lord Garashi's words for Dad to see. I'll show him what it means to be imposing. The middle-aged Sasuke nodded thoughtfully. I couldn't ignite it in our time and space because I lacked something that could make people's blood boil. Pooh Shi's eyes became colder and colder as he walked towards Garashi step by step. What a dangerous person. I smell turmoil and resistance on you. You're the only one I can't let go. Noticing Pooh Shi's action, Naruto quickly stood up. If you want to challenge the leader, you have to pass through me first. Pooh Shi sneered. You want to stop me? Then count me in. Sasuke stood up. And us. Gaara, Deidara and others also stood up. Although they knew that they were not the opponent of the other party, they still stood up without hesitation. They didn't know Garashi's true strength. They just wanted to test the other party's means to increase their chances of winning. Garashi didn't stop them. Instead, he said with a smile, Go and fight. Don't worry about your back. I'm your strongest support. With Garashi's words, everyone felt more secure. After all, the leader is the world's strongest medical ninja. Thinking of this, everyone was filled with pride. Let's let this bastard know who's the master of this world. Capture Otsutsuki alive and raise him. All kinds of powerful and gorgeous ninjutsu converged into a torrent and rushed towards Pooh Shi. Trying to use Chakra's power to deal with Otsutsuki, what a joke. Pooh Shi snorted while using his ability to absorb chakra. He used Shinra Tensei to blast them away. Shinra Tensei's repulsive force wasn't soft. Only Reikage's physique could withstand it. For these candidates, the moment they were blasted away by the repulsive force, they vomited blood. However, a light drizzle began to fall from the sky. Those dispirited examinees who had been sent flying quickly pulled themselves together and once again charged forward dauntlessly, wave after wave of them charging forward. What? This healing ability? Pooh Shi was shocked. Recovering faster than being injured. How can he fight? Before he could respond, everyone found his weakness one after another. When he absorbs ninjutsu, he has to use the fishing rod to avoid the attack range of the fishing rod. You can also use taijutsu or hidden weapons. He can't absorb these attacks. Pooh Shi was angry. You bastards are pissing me off, Shinra. However, the candidates were contacted by Garashi with the soul lock and told the basic abilities of the Rinnegan, and they were uniformly deployed in the group. Seeing that Pu Shi was going to use Shinra Tensei, everyone quickly entered a defensive posture. Various earth and water walls were erected in front of them. After the impact of Shinra Tensei, someone said in the group, constructed by Garashi, the enemy's skills are in the cooldown stage. Everyone attack together, but don't be greedy. After a round of attack, quickly enter a defensive state. Just like in the game in the dream world, they quickly defended after touching the boss. Don't ask for merit, just ask for no mistakes. Pu Shi was almost vomiting blood because of their rogue fighting style. Isn't this shameless? In desperation, he could only use the 1,000-paper crane to escape. Seeing their enemies being forced to flee in all directions, the ninjas in the audience could no longer hold back. First, they were ignited by the passion of the new generation of ninjas. Coupled with the fact that they had the support of their leader, they roared and rushed down the ring, recklessly attacking Urashishi. Crazy. They're all crazy. Looking at the humans who were as weak as ants, but the fanaticism in their eyes couldn't wait to devour him, Pu Shi felt fear for the first time. He really understood why the clan listed that kind of people as a must-kill target. Ah, let's go too. Rakage laughed and rushed up. Isn't it a bit bad to bully people like this? Oh, I forgot that this guy isn't human. Anoki followed with a smile. Uncle, let's go too. Boron was so excited that his face was red. Okay, let's go together? The middle-aged Sasuke said inside, no, my chakra hasn't recovered yet. Boron, Sigma, degree. Chapter 541. The passion of the entire arena was detonated, like a pot of boiling soup, almost igniting the atmosphere. Capture Otsutsuki alive. Capture him as a slave. The scattered paper cranes gathered together, and Pu Shi's figure appeared in the sky, no longer as calm as before. He looked fiercely at the people below and said, don't think that you can defeat me by relying on numbers. No matter how many ants there are, they will not pose any threat to the eagle soaring in the sky. Next, I won't let you hit me again. However, everyone scoffed at his words. Won't let us hit you again? What are you talking about? We have so many people here, we can hit you no matter what. Pu Shi returned to normal and calmly fell from the sky. In front of my eyes that can see through the future, any attack is futile. Is this the exclusive ability of Rinnegan? Some people who knew the horror of Madara's tomb of reincarnation were shocked. Is this guy going to show his ability? Pu Shi did not use Shinra Tensei this time, but calmly used the fishing rod in his hand to fight the enemy, and he moved in a small space with light steps to dodge. Unexpectedly, he seemed to be able to see through everyone's attacks. Every time he was able to dodge them at the right time, while the people who were attacking him were sent flying again and again. How is it possible? How did this guy do it? He obviously doesn't look like a strong taijutsu. Why does he have such a strong physical instinct? Hearing the puzzled voice of the people, Pu Shi kindly explained, because this is the most favorable future for me I chose from dozens of futures. Even Garashi's pupils shrank slightly. Choose the most favorable future for yourself? The rest of the people couldn't believe it and there was an uproar. Is dojutsu his future prediction? Can this kind of thing be done? Future prediction? Pu Shi smiled and shook his head slightly. To be precise, I turned back time a few seconds ago, and I know exactly what each of you will do next. Many people were scared and he could go back in time. Isn't this more terrible than future prediction? Pu Shi laughed loudly. Now you understand the gap between us? In front of these eyes, none of you stand a chance. In this silent atmosphere, an ordinary man stood up. Then let's make the future more unpredictable so that he can't experience so many futures. Those who joined the battle before were all Chunin and Jonin, but Genin and ordinary people still stayed on top, and many people recognized his identity. Isn't this the boss of Yao Ramen, Uncle Han Beat? What do you mean by that? Han shouted loudly, we are weak but our strength is not weak. As long as we throw a few stones at the edge of the battle, we can be considered to have participated in the battle, and we may have another future. If he can choose the trend that is most beneficial to him from the future of thousands of people, then what about the future of tens of thousands of people? Numbers are our most powerful weapon. Hearing this, the people in the audience seats were also excited. Compared with Jonin and Chunin, the majority of the population is always ordinary people and Genin. They weren't good at fighting, but they were definitely good at using numbers to lower Pu's winning rate. Pu Shi's expression finally changed. If they did as the ordinary human said, the amount of time backtracking would undoubtedly increase greatly. What's more terrifying is that these people may go out and increase the number of people to 1 million. At that time, he may not be able to find the most beneficial future for himself, and he will be tired to death. Thinking of this, Pooh quickly made a decision in his heart. Kill some of the ordinary people so that they don't even have the courage to approach the edge of the battlefield. Yomi no Miyazaka. Pooh opened the space door, broke free from the crowd, and instantly appeared above the ordinary people. Go to hell. However, before he could do anything, his eyes blurred and he appeared in front of Minato. In the eyes of others, Pooh and Raikage suddenly exchanged positions. Raikage appeared in the sky and was pulled down by gravity. His face was dark. Damn it again? Heavenly hand power. Bodo excitedly clenched his fist. I know, uncle, you deliberately pretended to be weak for Pooh. I'm right? He turned his head excitedly, and then saw the middle-aged Sasuke sitting on the ground powerlessly, and his whole body collapsed. Bodo? On the other side. Although there was no prior communication, Minato's reaction was still instantaneous. He rushed forward and touched many places on Pooh's body. Even Raikage's attack didn't cause any real damage to the enemy. Minato naturally didn't intend to take the opportunity to attack, but seized the opportunity to leave his exclusive mark on Pooh's body. Pooh was aroused by Minato's action, and subconsciously used Shinra Tensei to bounce him out. You're crazy. Pooh cursed, and then hurriedly continued with his previous plan. But as soon as he teleported through Yomi no Miyazaka, Minato instantly appeared beside him and took him away. Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Pooh suddenly understood that this bastard wasn't taking advantage of him, but leaving the Flying Thunder God Jutsu on him. Bastard. Pooh secretly cursed Minato's cunning. If it was just a jutsu, he could directly cut off that part of the skin or cut off the hands and feet. But the problem is, Minato touched him from head to toe. He can't cut off his whole body, can he? It seems that I can only act when he can't react. A mortal without a Kekkei Genkai, how fast can his nerve reaction be? Pooh launched Shinra Tensei, and then teleported to the crowd at the fastest speed, but before he could start moving he was brought back by Minato. Damn it, how can this guy react so fast? Pooh did not believe it and continued to try, but every time he teleported over he would be teleported back by the water gate. After repeating this a few times he finally went crazy. So annoying. I'm going to kill you first. However, Minato didn't fight with him at all. Minato also mastered the ability of space and even played it more smoothly than him. Pooh couldn't do anything to Minato. Then, the situation became the same as it was at the beginning. Pooh was chased by nearly 10,000 Chunin and Jonin. He wanted to use time to backtrack, but because there were too many variables in the future he couldn't see through the future. Unable to bear it, Pooh completely broke out. You bunch of lowly creatures, how dare you force me to this point? Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. It was as if he had completely darkened. After venting his anger, Pooh laughed strangely like a maniac and ate the red light fish basket hanging behind his waist. Not enough, still not enough. With that he dug out his eyes and put them in his mouth and chewed. The next moment, a crack appeared in his eyebrows and a golden Rinnegan opened. Chapter 542. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at the unforeseen event that happened to Pooh. They were greatly shocked. He ate the fish basket? And he also ate his own eyes? A golden eye grew on the forehead. What is the body structure of these aliens? This was not over. A light door appeared in front of Pooh, and in everyone's surprised eyes, Pooh walked in with a ferocious face. When he came out from the other side of the light door, his body shape completely changed. His face was full of dark stripes, his hands turned into wings and his feet grew claws. Even the black holes that were bleeding before were replaced with a pair of golden eyes at this moment. He looked like a human-shaped crane. This guy turned into a bird. What a strange transformation. Hearing the crowd's discussion, Pooh, who was flapping his wings in the air, opened his mouth and spat out a series of blocked words, which made the crowd below dumbfounded. After that, Pooh grinned and said, "Bastards, it's time for your funeral." After that, he picked the person he disliked the most from the crowd and flew towards him. Raikage was not angry but happy. Good. After turning the power of the lightning release chakra mode to the maximum, Raikage met the attack with a karate chop. Raikage. The karate chop and the claws collided fiercely, and after a moment of stalemate, as if to confirm his words, hit upside down, Pooh stood up from the ground, blood mist and the place where he was hit by the raising hand didn't even have a trace. Almost everyone couldn't believe their eyes. You're really
Raikage
weak,
was
so
hit
weak
before
that
even
even
living
Pusher
is a sin.
used the power of the
Pusher
Rinnegan.
grinned maliciously.
In terms of pure physical
His
strength,
legs
he was
heavily
obviously
stomped on
not
the
as
ground
good as
and like a
Raikage.
cannonball,
But this
he
time
shot
he
towards
defeated
Minato.
Raikage with an
So
absolute
fast.
advantage,
Minato's
and even
pupils suddenly
seriously
shrank.
injured him. The
almost
effect of this
instinctively used
transformation
Flying
was too
Thunder God
obvious
to dodge the attack.
Raikage was quickly
However,
revived
just
after
as he
being
teleported
drenched
to
in
the
other
rain,
side of the
and
arena,
his eyes were
he
full
heard
of fear
Pusher's
when he looked
voice.
at Pusher.
Aren't you very
You
fast?
must avoid this guy's
Hurry
attack.
up.
If you are caught
Without
by him,
much
you will
time to
die.
think, Minato
Everyone's
continued
face
to
was
teleport
dignified.
with Flying
They
Thunder
didn't have a
God,
strong
and
body like
Pusher was like a
Raikage. If
maggot
their body was
attached to
torn
the bone,
apart, even if they were
closely
drenched in the
behind him.
rain, they couldn't
Seeing
recover.
Minato's critical
Pusher laughed
situation,
wildly.
Naruto would
Ha,
leave,
next as the
and the
eagle
others
catching
hurriedly
the chick
rushed up.
Puff. Before his voice fell, Minato
Naruto-sama.
teleported behind
The rest
him
of
and
the
sent him
villagers
flying
also
with a
woke
raisin
up
gun.
from a dream.
Sure enough,
Use
after
Skynet's
eating the previous
authority to limit
Rinnegan,
his
he can
speed.
no longer use the
Set up a
ability to go
barrier and
back in
trap
time.
him.
Moreover,
everyone
his
took action,
personality has
Pusher
also become
suddenly
more
fell
violent,
into a
and
quagmire,
his alertness
and
has
his speed
decreased by a
instantly
lot.
slowed down.
Minato
Annoying
analyzed.
insects, get out
Hearing
of my
Minato's
way.
analysis,
Pusher
everyone
roared,
was overjoyed.
releasing an extremely
It seemed that
powerful
this transformation
pressure
had
from
a
the
huge
golden Rinnegan.
flaw.
This
But before
pressure
they
not
could
only
rejoice
suppressed
for a
everyone's
moment,
spirit,
they heard
but
Minato
also made
continue.
ordinary people
But
and genin with
correspondingly,
relatively
his
weak
strength,
willpower
speed,
faint,
defense,
but it
and
also
even vitality have
materialized,
all been
radiating
strengthened to
an
an
extremely
extremely terrifying
shockwave to
level.
the surrounding.
Everyone was caught off guard, and the shock wave hit them black and blue all over. Seeing their miserable state, Pusher's tyrannical intent became more and more intense. Haha, die all of you. Amaterasu Boryu Star Life, Jade Box. Pusher flew into the air and crazily shot purple energy balls around. There weren't many people who had the ability to block these energy balls, and those people were stunned for a moment because of the pressure. By the time they reacted, the entire arena had been turned into ruins. Under Pusher's wanton slaughter, a large number of people turned into ashes. Bastard, bastard, bastard. Naruto's eyes almost popped out, and he directly transformed into Kyuubi form, opened his mouth and shot a Baijidama. Pusher easily dodged and madly provoked him. Little fox, are you angry? Don't worry, it'll be your turn later. Behind him, Inoki raised his hands in pain and anger. In the previous wave of attack, his granddaughter Kuratsuchi was also sacrificed. Thinking of this, Inoki angrily used his strongest dust release, detachment jutsu. The light beam swept across the sky, but in the end, it was swallowed by Pusher. Here you go. Pusher grinned and returned the dust release. In the next moment, the Tsuchikage was swallowed by his own attack, and not even his corpse was left. At this moment, the wave-like sand suddenly swept into the sky, binding Pusher tightly. Sand burial. Before Gaara could be happy, he saw Pusher break free from the shackles and rush down like an arrow. Then he pierced his father in front of him. Gaara was stunned. Why? Raza coughed up blood. I'm sorry to let you bear so much pressure in the future. Seeing that Tsuchikage and Kazekage die one after another, everyone cried in pain. Damn, the Kazekage and Tsuchikage are both dead. How could this be? For a moment they were desperate. Pusher laughed. I didn't say anything wrong, right? The more you resist, the more desperate you are. At this time, Garashi suddenly said, You seem to have forgotten whose place this is. Pusher stared blankly for a moment before he burst into laughter. I almost forgot about you. But don't you think it's too late to stand up now? Yes. It's too late. Many people complained in their hearts, complaining about why the leader didn't stand up earlier, but because of Garashi's majesty in the past, they didn't dare to say it out loud. Garashi shook his head slightly. Only those who can't hold on to time will think it's too late. Pusher had an ominous premonition in his heart. What do you mean? Garashi took a deep breath and formed a seal with both hands, letting the dragon vein chakra in his body respond to the surrounding time and space. Reverse reincarnation. Everyone felt as if they were sitting on a fast-moving train, and the surrounding scenery quickly went back. When they came back to their senses, everything around them was restored to its original state. Not only did the dead come back to life, but even the ruined arena was restored to its original state. Chapter 543. In the arena, the crowd looked around in confusion. Their memories were still stuck at the moment before they died. Shouldn't I be dead? Inoki was confused. Could it be that I'm strong enough to use dust release with my physical body? I definitely died just now. Raza said to himself. Did the Chancellor bring me back to life? Unlike in the parallel world, without the miracle of Nagato reviving all the Woodleaf dead, everyone's ability to accept resurrection was relatively low. As for the others, their memories were retained by Garashi, so they didn't go back with their bodies. Because of this, they were more shocked than those who were resurrected. What kind of power is this to turn back time? This is the domain of the gods. Compared to that egomaniac who calls himself a god, the leader is a real god. Time reversal, and it's even stronger than my Rinnegan. How is this possible? Pooh Shiur was also shocked. The ability to control time was rare and precious even in the Otsutsuki clan, but Raza didn't use dojutsu and developed it himself. Moreover, I can only reverse time by 7 to 10 seconds at most, but he can reverse time by at least 1 minute. Compared to the shock of the others, Garashi was very calm. After he succeeded in finding the plow in the sea, he combined his understanding of time and space with the inspiration given by the plow to develop this technique. He also used this battle as an experiment. Sure enough, this technique is the same as Izanagi's time reversal. It can't reset my chakra. Garashi thought. Although unlimited chakra couldn't work, the 80 gates wasn't a fantasy. The only regret was that this technique could only be used when he recovered Aizen's clone. With the strength of a single body, it would be difficult to use such a powerful technique. After thinking for a while, Garashi walked towards Pooh Shiur step by step under the fanatical gaze of the crowd. Do you have anything else to say? I'm not afraid of you, I'm a god, an intermediate warrior of the Otsutsuki clan. Pooh Shiur's face was ferocious as he tried to hide the fear in his heart. He was indeed afraid. Raza's powerful ability made him feel a trace of fear that he hadn't felt in a long time. Garashi stopped talking and walked step by step, as if he was stepping on Pooh Shiur's beating heart. At last, Pooh Shiur could no longer bear the torment. A powerful aura erupted from his body, and he recklessly rushed toward Shushi. Go to hell. Facing Pooh Shiur's full-strength attack, Garashi didn't have the time to think. Did he just say intermediate warrior? Which one is advanced warrior? At that time he didn't recover and he gave me more pressure than Pooh Shiur's. By the way, I have to be careful I don't kill him. Despite this, Garashi's SS gate, all 8 gates in Sage Mode strongest. The enemies is Pooh's S's sigh, it seems like I was too heavy-handed. At this moment, Pooh Shiur, who was traveling underground, was at a loss. Wasn't he fighting an enemy? S's to him. He's almost numb from the pain. After a while, half of his body disappeared and the rest of his body was crushed. Pooh Shiur, who was lying on the ground like a mollusk, asked, "Who am I? Where am I? By the way, I was just beaten." Feeling the scorching heat around him, Pooh Shiur's slow mind became a little sober. Am I hit to the core? Without waiting for him to struggle, he heard a voice that made him feel disgusted. You're not dead? That saves me a lot of trouble. He doesn't want me to die? What? Pooh Shiur fell asleep as soon as he had this thought. Garashi took back the scroll with more than 30 layers of seals and flew to the ground happily. Ground. Everyone stared at the huge hole leading to the ground. They guessed that Pooh Shiur was not the leader's opponent, but they didn't expect the gap to be so big. Raza's 1 punches. Didn't Otsutsuki say he was a god? If he's a god, then what is the leader, the god king? For a while, the haze that shrouded everyone's heart gradually dissipated. Isn't it just a few hundred Otsutsuki? Leader strength is enough to throw a few hundred punches. On the side, Boruto scratched his head. It seems that the crisis is over? The middle-aged Sasuke took a deep breath. Garashi-sama is still so strong. Even with Garashi-sama's strength, Naruto and I have indeed slacked off these years. Boruto nodded in agreement. Dad spent too much time dealing with official business. Uncle, you. By the way, Uncle, why did you slack off? Maybe because I lost my goal. The middle-aged Sasuke said with uncertainty. Just as Boruto was about to continue asking, the crowd suddenly burst into cheers. Leaders here. What made them feel even more relieved was that Garashi, who appeared again, replied personally. The threat is officially lifted. After a burst of cheers, someone asked, Leader, should we continue with the Jonin exam or do we have another day? Garashi smiled slightly. There's no need to continue. Huh? What do you mean? Garashi flew to the judge's seat above and glanced at the candidates. You confirm your beliefs, implement your own ninja path, stick to your heart in the face of temptation, and never give up in the face of a strong enemy. You have passed the most important exam. I hereby announce that you are all Jonin. Double quotes. Are we all Jonin? Haha, as expected of me. The candidates were taken aback and immediately cheered loudly. But someone asked, isn't it a bit too much to promote 90 Jonins at once? Garashi smiled and shook his head. Don't be too rigid. The Jonin exam's purpose is to select outstanding talents. There's no reason to reject outstanding talents just because there are too many of them. Since Garashi said so, the crowd naturally had no more questions. I'm sure everyone has gained a lot from today's incident, so I won't disturb your digestion. After that, Garashi directly teleported away with the flying thunder god. In the crowd, Gaara found Raza and asked, "Father, what's the thing you didn't finish before you died?" Raza's eyes widened. How can he be emotional when he's alive? Naruto found Sasuke and stammered, Sasuke thought Naruto was going to talk about today's battle. Today's battle doesn't count. Let's fight again next time. Naruto shook his head awkwardly. That's not what I want to talk about. That flying thunder god's jutsus can be eliminated? I'm afraid you'll sleepwalk at night and come to my room with the flying thunder god. Bodo watched his father and uncle's quarrel in the distance with great interest, and then he felt someone patting his shoulder. He looked back and saw Hinata staring at him. Who are you? Why are you calling Naruto-kun's father? Chapter 544. The moment he saw Hinata, his legs trembled. He couldn't help it, the bloodline suppression was too strong. As long as he saw this face, he could recall the desolate years of being violently suppressed. Seeing Bodo's reaction, Hinata was more certain. Do you know me? No. Bodo said and suddenly covered his mouth. If he could cross over, then what if his mother also crossed over? If his mother knew that he didn't even recognize his mother, wouldn't she end up miserable? Thinking of this, Bodo broke the jar. Mom. This time it was Hinata's turn to panic. What are you talking about? Not only Bodo but middle-aged Sasuke also encountered the same problem. Minato stepped forward. Thank you very much for your help twice, but you seem to know Otsutsuki? Fugaku stood next to him. I'm very sorry, but it involves the eyes of the family. I have to ask, where did your eyes come from? Noticing that the other party didn't have Chakra's expression, he naturally thought of Kakashi. How can the people of the Uchiha family be so weak? There is no doubt that the other party's eyes must be transplanted. Looking at his middle-aged father, middle-aged Sasuke sighed, You gave me these eyes, Dad. Fugaku, Garashi didn't go home or return to the office, but directly entered the dream world. The information he was going to ask from Pushur was top secret, and it must be done in a place that was completely under his control, and there was no possibility of any problems. Also, even the brain of an ordinary ninja has a seal to protect information from being leaked, not to mention Otsutsuki. Even if he severely damaged Pushur's spirit, it may not be enough to break the seal in Pushur's mind by force alone. He must use the power of the entire dream world. After preparing, Garashi began to lift the seal. Then Pushur, with only his head left, appeared in front of Garashi. Pushur was at a loss for a moment, and soon realized his situation, and cast an indifferent gaze at Garashi. You caught me to get information about Otsutsuki from me? Garashi chuckled softly. Obviously. Pushur sneered. Oh, give up on that idea. I will never betray my family. Just kill me. Garashi shook his head slightly. I never expected you to cooperate. Pushur suddenly had an ominous premonition. What do you want to do? Bear with it, it might hurt a little. Garashi smiled and put his right hand directly into Pushur's forehead. Pushur's face was ferocious for a moment, and then he screamed miserably. The pain of the soul was far greater than that of the physical body. It would have been better if he had fainted or died from the pain, but his spirit was incomparably tough. It was as if someone had chopped off his head with a blunt knife. For Otsutsuki, who had hardly experienced pain, this kind of pain was simply despairing. Garashi's face was cold and indifferent to Pushur's crazy screams. 30 seconds later, he frowned and pulled his right hand away. With the addition of the power of the dream realm, he could indeed break the seal in Pushur's mind with brute force. However, the problem was that Pushur's soul would collapse the moment the seal was broken. He could only take advantage of the moment when Pushur's soul collapsed to grab a few more soul fragments and read the memories in them. And the part of the memory he read, if it was the content of Pushur's sleeping and eating, wouldn't it be a huge loss? As expected of Otsutsuki, who can move unhindered in the universe, his protection of intelligence is too strong. Garashi sighed. Hearing Garashi's sigh, Pushur laughed with a grim face. Haha, even if you are strong, you are just a lucky mortal. If you want to touch the realm of God, you are still 10,000 years too early. Garashi didn't care about his ridicule and thought a little. It seems that I have to find foreign aid. Foreign aid? In Pushur's puzzled eyes, Garashi took out a scroll. After unsealing it, a black mud sneakily poked out part of its body. Seeing this, Pusher couldn't help but laugh. Are you going to use a black mud to deal with me? This is not a simple black mud, but a black mud with the same bloodline as you, Garashi said and looked at Black Zetsu. Am I right? Otsutsuki Zetsu. Yes. The words Otsutsuki Zetsu simply poked Black Zetsu's G-spot. He proudly straightened his body and then looked at Pusher with proud eyes. He was suddenly scared. Otsutsuki Zetsu? That golden Rinnegan, that inviolable bloodline suppression, isn't that Otsutsuki? It looks like Otsutsuki from the main family. For a while, Black Zetsu was a little confused. Has he been sealed for thousands of years? Qingshui Shushi, this big monster, had even captured someone from the Qingshui family and beat him up so ruthlessly. Too ferocious. Otsutsuki Zetsu? Pusher frowned and sensed it, then turned his head in disgust. A defective product of the inferior bloodline? Is it worthy of being compared with me? Black Zetsu's eyes widened. If he was a defective product of the inferior bloodline, then what about his mother, the source of his bloodline? Thinking of this, he suddenly burned with anger. You can insult him, but you can't insult his mother. You are powerful, but weren't you caught? You, Garashi said coldly, don't quarrel. Black Zetsu suddenly remembered that he was still a prisoner. He looked at Garashi with a flattering look. This guy is too arrogant. He was caught by Garashi-sama and is still so arrogant. I can't stand it. Shushi looked at him with a half-smile. You're quite flexible. You've adapted to your new identity so quickly. Black Zetsu smiled and said tentatively, I just think that if you want to go to war with Otsutsuki, a powerful ally can help you reduce the threat from all sides. Before he was sealed, his last memory was to use 9 truths and 1 lie to guide Garashi to become his new help. As a result, Garashi didn't give him a chance to speak and sealed him. Now it seems that Shimizu Garashi hides too deep, and it is likely that he knows a lot of secrets. Sure enough, Garashi looked at him with a smile. The ally you are talking about is the Sage of 6 Paths, or the Ancestor of the Moon, or your common mother? Sure enough, he knows everything. Black Zetsu lamented in his heart, feeling that his value had decreased again. But he still didn't give up. Since you know my mother, you must know how powerful she is, right? If you are willing to help me save my mother, I promise that she can help you resist the threat from the main family. Garashi laughed. Not to mention that even Kagaya himself is afraid of the Otsutsuki main family. How can you guarantee that your mother won't come out and destroy the world? He really knows everything. Black Zetsu suddenly felt that his life was gloomy, and there was no interest in living. At this moment, he heard Garashi say in a slow tone, however, it is not impossible. Chapter 545. Black Zetsu's spirit was refreshed and he was suddenly revived. What do you mean? Garashi smiled slightly. In dealing with the threat of Otsutsuki, she and I do have a common enemy, so after growing to the same level as her, I can try to free her. If it was someone else who said that he would grow to the same level as his mother, Black Zetsu would definitely scoff, but the person who said this was Shimizu Garashi, a big monster who could even defeat his own family. Maybe it was really possible. Moreover, his mother was immortal. Even if they fell out in the end, at most she would be resealed like now, there would be no worse ending. Thinking of this, his whole body was rejuvenated. Garashi-sama, what do you need me to do? Black Zetsu asked. Of course, he knew that Shimizu Garashi must have a purpose to make such a promise. Sure enough, Garashi pointed to the side. I want you to possess him and read his memory. Pusher's pupils suddenly shrank. You want to use his identity to bypass the seal? Garashi admitted directly. Yes, that's what I think. Thinking Then of I'm this, afraid Black you'll Jew be laughed. disappointed.
How could that
Pusher
be?
sneered.
I,
With his soul
Otsutsuki
strength
Zetsu,
and
have always been
bloodline
honest
purity,
and trustworthy.
the only result of possessing
Garashi
me
did
is
not
that he
point
would be
it out and
devoured
said,
by me.
Tell me the strength of the
Zetsu hesitated.
Otsutsuki clan.
He's right.
His eyes
The
are really
result
on
of forcibly
Otsutsuki.
possessing me
What a
is that
bold
I will
move.
be eaten by
Black
him.
Zetsu sighed in
Don't
his
worry,
heart
I'm
and then
here.
quickly replied.
Garashi looked
There are
indifferent.
602
I will
people
make
in the
him
clan,
unable to
including
resist.
425
Garashi's
low-level
guarantee,
warriors,
Black Zetsu was relieved.
144
Okay,
mid-level
then I'll
warriors,
go.
and 33
Black Zetsu's
high-level
body
warriors.
wrapped around Pusher.
Garashi was a little
Get out.
surprised.
Get
This
out of my
data
way.
is much lower
The
than I
Rinnegan
thought.
between
Black
Urushi's
Zetsu
eyebrows released
explained,
pressure.
Otsutsuki
But before
is
he
not
could
without
make the next
enemies in the
move, he
starry
was suppressed
sky.
by Shushi.
Otsutsuki's
Under
method of
Garashi's
ecological
suppression,
extinction
Pusher's
and draining
was
the pond to
defeated,
catch
and not
fish has
long
caused
after,
many people
his
to
whole
be
face was
dissatisfied.
covered by black
Also,
mud.
the colonial
Sure
planets
enough,
under
Trash's
Otsutsuki's
resources
rule
in the
have
wrong
been
place.
rioting for nearly
Garashi
1,000
nodded
years,
slightly,
and the
he
ranch's
knew that it
output
was
has been
impossible
greatly
to organize
reduced.
Pusher's
The
memory too
replenishment
quickly,
of combat
so he
power
waited
is not
quietly.
as much as the loss
As
in the war.
Pusher's memory was
According to the
gradually
analysis
digested,
of the clan,
Black Zetsu's
there should
heart
be
was
other
set off
forces
a storm.
behind
behind the colonial planet's came from the future of the parallel world. So that's how it is. The key was that his mother in the parallel world was resealed by two kids. He was not interested in the war. He thought that hundreds of thousands of years had passed, as long as he knew that it was only 5 years to care about here. In just 5 years, by the way, how are the low level to the mid-level and high level warriors differentiated and even developed a ninjutsu like time rewind. Otsutsuki is born strong. There was even a trace of fear in his heart. Birth. Could his mother really powerful high-level warriors will have everything? Should he hide some key royalty? As Black Zetsu's low-level warriors can only be cannon fodder. They are not. I believe you're a smart man. You wouldn't in other words, the so-called low-level, mid-level, and high-level are just the differences in potential. Black, not completely representing combat power. I really think Garashi asked with a strange look. With him, Zetsu with him, with me think. Otsutsuki pays attention to bloodline, but most of the time, bloodline does represent strength. Garashi was thoughtful. Go on? Black Zetsu continued. Otsutsuki is an extremely cold-blooded and cruel clan. Even among the same clan, there is no warmth to speak of. The low-level warriors are instilled from birth that sacrificing for Otsutsuki is the supreme glory. Then they will be sacrificed to the god tree, and when the god tree bears chakra fruit, it will be enjoyed by the mid-level or high-level warriors. Garashi was a little surprised. Sacrifice? Black Zetsu's voice was low. The chakra of a planet is too chaotic and jumbled. Even the god tree can't absorb them together. The noble Otsutsuki bloodline must be used as the core to turn the chakra into an absorbable chakra fruit. Mother is such a low-level warrior, and the Otsutsuki Ichiki who came with her is a high-level warrior. High-level warrior. Although he had such a guess before, Garashi was a little surprised. There are only 33 high-level warriors and one is missing. The Otsutsuki clan didn't send anyone to look for it? Black Zetsu said, Garashi-sama, you can't look at Otsutsuki with the eyes of mortals. Although 1,000 years is long in their eyes, it is only the time for a season of rice to mature. It is normal for Otsutsuki Ichiki to guard the planet and ensure that the chakra fruit is not eaten by insects and birds. However, after this season's time, if Ichiki does not return, they will indeed send someone to look for him. In this guy's memory, the main family sent 2 Otsutsuki called Momoshiki and Jinshiki, and he sneaked out by himself. Time waits for no man. Garashi sighed and asked, has there been a precedent of a low-level warrior betraying the Otsutsuki clan before? Black Zetsu shook his head, never. Garashi nodded, and he somewhat understood why Ichiki was plotted against. Originally, from Ichiki's successful sneak attack, he initially determined that Ichiki was mentally retarded, and his IQ was most likely not more than 30. But from the contact between Black Zetsu and Ichiki in the parallel world, the other party's IQ seemed to be normal. Now it seems that the reason why Ichiki was attacked was that Kagaya hid too well, and he didn't expect a low-level warrior to have the ability to resist him. The question now is, how did Kagaya change from a brave and resourceful rebel to what he is today? Chapter 546. Garashi thought for a moment. Perhaps the reason why Atsuki didn't guard against Kagaya was because everything changed after they came to this planet? They wantonly destroyed the indigenous people on this planet, forcing them to lure Kagaya. Kagaya was tempted to betray Atsuki, and after getting the power of the indigenous people, she had the capital to launch a sneak attack. In other words, she was likely to be eroded by the god system before eating the chakra fruit. This also explains why a strong person like her could be contaminated. Garashi shook his head. He thought this way to dispel the scruples in his heart so that he would not be so resistant to the god system. In the end, he still had to wait until he caught Atsuki to know the truth. Garashi continued to ask, the Atsuki clan's way of increasing their strength is to eat the chakra fruit? What's the reason why Pusher ate his own eyes before? Black Zetsu nodded. Although they can rely on cultivation to improve their strength, it's too slow and most people don't have the patience. It's also because the Atsuki clan never produces and only knows how to plunder that their reputation in the starry sky is so bad. As for eating themselves, first of all, you have to know that in addition to eating the chakra fruit, the Atsuki clan can also increase their strength. The difference between low-level, middle-level, and high-level warriors is obviously not enough to explain Otsutsuki's it's forbidden to directly eat their own people. You should use the number of times he presided over the Sacred Tree Festival, which occurs once in 1,000 years. Black is the best opportunity to transform their strength. There's no need to talk about the low-level Tree sacrifices controlled by superior warriors. 23 of them were given a chance to host the ceremony because of their contribution, so they came up with this magical operation of eating themselves. Except for Tao Shi, who is a new generation, They have
only
all
sigh.
hosted the sacred
The
tree
boundless
ceremony
universe
at least
is full
once.
of wonders.
As for the
Black
specific
Setsu
number of
continued,
times, Pusher doesn't know.
sneaked out this
Only
time
senior
because he was
warriors have the right to
dissatisfied
know.
with the possibility of being
It seems that
assigned
there
to
is one more
Mamashiki.
reason to catch
He waited
Ishiki.
for thousands of
Garashi
years and didn't
nodded
get the
slightly
chance,
and asked,
but Mamashiki
most
was
of the
assigned to
low-level
the sacred
warriors
tree
are sacrificed
just
just
a
a
few
few decades
decades
after she was born. Is it possible
course,
to
he
use
didn't dare to
mid-level or
destroy it
high-level
openly.
warriors as
He just
sacrificial
thought that if
offerings?
Mamashiki failed,
This
it would
should
be
not
his
be
chance
possible,
to come out
right?
and enjoy the fruit.
Black Setsu hesitated.
Shushi nodded slightly.
In this guy's memory, he is
a young
quite proud of
upper-level
his
warrior,
identity.
a middle-level
In his
warrior
opinion,
who has never
high-level
presided
and
over the
mid-level
ritual
warriors
of
are
the
equal
divine
most
tree,
of the time,
and a lower-level
Garashi
warrior
did
who
not
was used
comment
as a
on Pusher's
sacrifice.
opinion. It's
He
no
just
wonder
chuckled.
that this combination of
Speaking
clay
of which,
chickens and
the
pottery
reason why
dogs
Kagaya
failed.
can be so
Even a
strong
low-level
is it
warrior
because the
from planet
sacrificial offerings
Otsutsuki
are
is
high-level
enough to
warriors?
suppress a planet.
Black Setsu
Three
opened his
Otsutsuki
mouth.
can even make
I
a
don't know.
galaxy tremble.
Garashi
The reason they are
calculated
so
in his
weak
heart.
is because you are too
Tao
strong.
Sure is a
Garashi.
high-level warrior.
Black
Ishiki
Setsu
is an
flattered.
incomplete high-level warrior, and Kagaya is a different kind who ate high-level warriors. If the three of them can be sacrificed to the sacred tree, the chakra-fruited bears will be incomparably powerful. Having said that, Garashi still did not dispel the idea of advancing his four systems at the same time. Because he has never been afraid to speculate about people who are stronger than him with the worst malice. What if there is a monster hidden in Otsutsuki that specializes in feeding on high-level warriors? At least in his view, Otsutsuki's sixth system is easy to give birth to monsters. As long as the people in the front have evil thoughts, it is possible to treat the people behind as food to ensure their supreme status. Saying that it is forbidden to kill people of the same race, maybe it is just to prevent the race from giving birth to people stronger than themselves. Therefore, even if the power of chakra is strong, he will never let it be his only reliance. Thinking of this, Garashi said indifferently, "Remove the possession." Yes.
Black Setsu said carefully, worried that Garashi will seal him in again. The black mud gradually pulled away from Pusher's face, and Pusher, who regained control of his body, looked at Black Setsu fiercely. "You dare to betray the family, you will?" Pusher screamed and blood flowed from his eyebrows. Garashi used violent means to dig out his golden rinnegan. Black Setsu trembled and bowed his head, not daring to speak. Without waiting for Pusher to curse out loud, Shushi resealed him. At least he can be used as a fertilizer for the sacred tree. "Otsutsuki Zetsu." Black Setsu said, "I'm here. What should I do with you?" Black Setsu smiled very flatteringly. "You can do whatever you want even if you reseal me." "How can I do that? We are allies." Garashi laughed. "Well, I will arrange for you to be with someone. I don't have to be sealed, great?" Black Setsu was excited and asked, "Who are you going to arrange for me to be with?" "Otsutsuki Ichiki." "Oh, Otsutsuki Ichiki." Black Setsu said and suddenly reacted, "Wasn't he sacrificed by Mother? How is he still alive?" Garashi shook his head slightly. "How can a high-level warrior of the Otsutsuki clan die so easily?" Black Setsu trembled again. "If my identity is discovered?" "It's not if, it will definitely be discovered." Black Setsu turned into a puddle of soft mud. "Then what should I do?" Garashi said, "Improvise. I believe that with your ability, you will be able to stabilize him." Black Setsu suddenly felt that the future was not bright, and asked tentatively, "What if my memory is read by him?" Garashi said calmly, "Don't worry, I will set a seal in your soul. He is not in a good state now, there is a high probability that he can't break it." "Not in a good state?" Black Setsu asked. "He attacked me 9 years ago but I seriously injured him." Garashi said, "Boss." Black Setsu was shocked. That was a big man that his mother had to attack to defeat. Hearing that he was seriously injured, Black Setsu suddenly became more confident. "You can rest assured I will deceive him, let him be injured." "Who told you to aggravate his injury?" Black Setsu asked. "What do you want me to do?" "On the contrary, I want you to help him recover from his injury on the one hand to gain his trust on the other hand." Garashi said faintly, "The chakra fruit produced by sacrificing a high-level warrior will be more delicious, isn't it?" Black Setsu trembled again. He actually intended to sacrifice a high-level warrior. Is this the vision of a boss? Chapter 547. In the central tower, the people around Sasuke and Naruto were surprised. Although they already knew about the parallel universe from their leader, it was the first time they saw a visitor from a parallel universe. Especially the few people who were related to the two of them. For a moment they didn't know how to face them. In the end, Fugaku patted Sasuke's shoulder. "Before you go back, ask the leader to check your body." "My body, my own." Sasuke was a little unsure and doubted himself. "Is there really something wrong with me?" On the side, Hinata tried her best to educate Boron. When you go back you have to listen to me in that world. Don't mess around and don't fall in love. Boron's eyes widened. Aren't you in love now? Hinata blushed. Unrequited love can't be counted as puppy love. Unrequited love. Can mom's matter be counted as puppy love? At this time, a gentle voice came from behind everyone. Oh, everyone's here? Leader Sama. After greeting him, Sasuke hurriedly asked, Garashi, Sama, Otsutsuki Makura? Garashi shook his head slightly. Don't worry, he's been sealed by me forever. That's good. Boron patted his chest hard. Garashi said seriously, since the matter is settled, it's about time for you to go back. Are we leaving? Boron was still a little reluctant. Sasuke said rationally, it's rare that we've defeated the enemy. Of course we have to tell everyone the good news quickly. Don't let them worry. Boron also knew that it was better to deal with the pain quickly. He steeled his heart and took out the little tortoise. Plow, take us back to the time when we set off. Yes, please sit down. Plow is about to activate. Plow said mechanically. Boron waved his hand hard. I'll remember everyone. As soon as he finished speaking, he and Sasuke were taken away by a beam of light. Seeing the two leave, everyone felt a sense of loss. Fugaku suddenly slapped his thigh. Oh no, I forgot to ask the leader to check Sasuke's body. After the matter was settled, Garashi asked Aizen to take the golden Rinnegan back to the parallel world. After some preparations for war, the ninja
Karen was
allied
a little
army of the
irritable
parallel
because she
world
felt
was
the
finally
same way.
formed.
Fortunately,
At the meeting place of the
Sasuke
major
and
columns,
Naruto's conversation,
who
quickly
served as the
shifted in
commander
another
of the
direction.
coalition forces,
Why isn't
spoke
the
his mind
commander-in-chief
on the
of the
coalition forces Garashi
I also
Sama.
hated everything
Isn't
and
that
tried to
reckless
destroy the
breakage?
world just like the
Sasuke
Akatsuki
asked
today.
unhappily. However,
I heard
a
that
ninja
Garashi
from Konoha
Sama
stopped
doesn't
me.
want to leave
He
too
cried
many
for me,
traces in
an
this
enemy,
world.
and regarded me as
Naruto
a friend.
explained.
He saved me,
I
and we
reluctantly
understood each
agreed
other,
to join
and he
the
told me
coalition
what love
forces
is for the sake of Garashi
Naruto, who was
Sama.
in the crowd, was
no
a
matter
little
what you
shy.
arrange,
He
I will
touched
only
his
listen
nose
to Garashi
embarrassedly.
Sama's orders.
Gara, why are you being so
Sasuke
emotional?
said proudly. It's so
Naruto
embarrassing.
didn't persuade him and looked
Sasuke
around with some
snorted and
doubts.
said, You are
Speaking
all
of which,
Jinchuriki.
where did Garashi
Of
Sama
course
go?
you can understand
I
each
haven't
other.
seen him today.
Suigetsu
At the same time,
them.
Gaara's speech
Karen,
came to an end.
Don't you think that Sasuke
I want
is
to
very
protect my
similar
friends
to
in
you
the
when you
world,
saw Haruno
but I'm too
Sakura?
young and too shallow
Shut
to
up.
do such a thing.
So please help me. As soon as his voice fell, all the phalanxes burst into cheers. Of course. Gara-sama. Standing in a different dimension, Rikudo Senin's eyes were full of relief, and then he looked to the side. Outsider, thank you for waking me up and letting me see the scene I've always wanted to see. Rikudo Senin's words are too serious. I just happened to be here. Garashi smiled. By the way, the power you used to wake me up seems to be the same as my truth-seeking ball? Rikudo asked with some doubts. This is the power you gave me in the parallel world to gain your trust. Garashi said as he released part of the truth-seeking ball's power. Rikudo Senin twirled his beard. Yes, this is indeed my power and I haven't lost it, which means you are indeed from a parallel world. With Rikudo's state of mind, a parallel world only surprised him a little, and he quickly accepted it. As for the credibility of Garashi's words, he didn't doubt it. If the other party had the ability to forcibly take the truth-seeking ball from him in the parallel world, then there was no need to pretend to be polite with him. Young man, what do you want me to tell you in the other world? Garashi's expression was solemn. It's information about Otsutsuki's family. At the mention of the family, Rikudo Senin's kind expression became a lot more serious. Otsutsuki's family? Garashi immediately applied what he had learned and told Rikudo Senin the information his original body had obtained from Pushur. This time, even Rikudo Senin's state of mind couldn't remain calm. Low-level, mid-level, high-level warriors, the sacred tree sacrifice. Even Mother didn't mention this. Garashi analyzed. Maybe the low-level warrior's past was a humiliation to her? It's possible. Mother is a very proud person. Rikudo Senin said, and his face became worried. I thought that as long as the enemy was defeated, we should be able to obtain 1,000 years of peace. But I didn't expect that the sacred tree sacrifice was related to the high-level warriors of Otsutsuki. With such an important person lost, Otsutsuki must have done something. No wonder Mother was so worried. Garashi said seriously. In terms of time, this time and space is the future of our world. That is to say, this time and space will be the first to encounter a great calamity. That's why Rikudo Senin asked me to come to this world to help. Rikudo Senin was moved. You disregarded your own safety and risked your life to help our world. No wonder I trusted you so much in the other world. Garashi chuckled softly. What are you talking about? If the lips are gone, the teeth will be cold. Helping you is helping ourselves. Rikudo Sennin sighed and then asked, "What do you think we should do?" Garashi said, "Fighting Otsutsuki with our strength is tantamount to hitting a stone with an egg. In my opinion, the key to solving the future crisis is to steal the sky and change the sun, and turn Momoshiki into our people." Chapter 548. Stealing the Sky and Swapping the Sun? Six Paths was a little surprised. "You mean we can take over Momoshiki's body and then go back and tell Otsutsuki that the rebellion has been resolved?" "That's right." Garashi nodded. "We can't kill him. That will only attract more Otsutsuki." Six Paths thought for a moment and said, "But there is one thing. Momoshiki's strength should increase greatly after the ceremony. We can't really host the ceremony. How can we create the illusion that his strength has increased?" "We can't create an illusion. Otsutsuki will see through it." Garashi said, "In addition to hosting the ceremony, there is another way to increase his strength." "You mean the servant he brought with him?" Six Paths shook his head slightly. "Although the servant can also make chakra pills, the effect of chakra pills alone is not as good as the chakra fruit of the tree of God. If one servant is not enough, how the resurrection of the Kage in the villages has a great impact on the morale." Tsunade said with a dignified expression and expression changed slightly. "Second Grandpa, you said before that if the person who is reborn knows the seal of the Edo Tensei, nodded. He can unlock it by himself. He even ambushed me in my world." Tobarama nodded. "Sure enough, that guy won't die so easily." Tsunade suggested. Six Paths' expression was dignified. "Tell the four Kage how to make the seal so that they can break free from the ready-made bait right here?" "It's useless." Shushi smiled and shook his head slightly. Six Paths time to make the seal. "You want to use yourself as the seal, they will be controlled by the caster. He attacked me, which means I have something that attracts him. It won't work? Also, as you can see, I'm just a doppelganger in this world. The four Kage are resurrected, and we also have four Kage here." Six Paths nodded. "Why don't you let the four of us deal with them?" He could see Garashi's background, but he still felt ashamed. "Brother, I can't believe I let an outsider like you risk your life for our world." Refused. "I'm so ashamed. The only person who can deal with Madara on our side is solving the crisis of this world. I can deal with the threat of the battlefield in time when Madara appears." Garashi paused and continued, "But there is one thing before I use let the fourth Naruto take the third Naruto to reinforce them. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll scare him away." The dominator of the Six Paths Hiruzen also said, "I will just let me do my job again and make sure that I don't leak any of my aura." Suddenly, the liaison I will only wake up when the truth-seeking Jade starts to move. Lazy's first unit will soon meet the enemy's army of white Garashi said as he looked outside. And there are many strong Edo Tensei. The morale-raising ceremony is almost done. Daimyo guard it's time for me to leave. Many enemies. Six Paths said solemnly, "I'll leave the rest to you. And Chakra. Thank you for your sacrifice for the people of this world." The morale-raising ceremony ended, and the war officially began. Hashirama in the command center of the Alliance Army, the Uchiha boy said that he sensed his brother's chakra and wanted to find him. Reported that I thought it was good to communicate between the brothers, so I let him go. The second Mizuki, Naruto was worried about him and said that he wanted to go out with him. The Hachibi's Jinchuriki said that Naruto hasn't learned the Vijidama yet and wanted to teach him on the way. Also defiled Dad. Agreed. Inoki's eyes were gloomy. Twitched wildly. How dare he almost couldn't resist the urge to hit him. Unforgivable. On a tree-lined path. Naruto Sasuke. Naruto. Sasuke's face was sour. His brother called Naruto's name first. Killer Bee was even more speechless. Was he being ignored? Itachi. Naruto responded to Itachi's greeting, and then looked at the old man with white hair who needed Itachi's support. "Who are you?" Cough. Nagato choked. "Have you forgotten my voice so soon? My good brother. It's you, Pain." Naruto stared. "No wonder your body hasn't appeared. It turns out that your kidney is so weak. It's not kidney deficiency, it's overdraft of my life potential." Nagato emphasized it for the dignity of a man. Naruto said seriously. "That's right. It's because I overdraft my life potential that my kidney is weak." "You," Itachi on the side took over the topic and his eyes switched to the Mangekyo form. "Naruto, look at my eyes." Naruto looked over obediently. "What's wrong?" Killer Bee was taken aback. "Naruto, be careful of his Amaterasu." Seeing that Naruto didn't have any special reaction, Itachi looked at Sasuke with a complicated expression. "Guarding wood leaf jutsu is finally used on you, Sasuke." However, Sasuke sneered. "Who wants to guard wood leaf jutsu? Don't force your thoughts on me." Itachi was shocked. "Your thoughts?" With that he winked at Naruto again. Sasuke was in a bad mood. "Stop flirting. If you want to stimulate Shirsue's Kodo Amatsukami, you'd better give up." Itachi was surprised. "You know Shirsue's Kodo Amatsukami?" Sasuke said sarcastically. Not only do I know, but we also roasted and ate the crow. Chapter 549. Itachi smiled helplessly. You're still the same as before, you don't even know how to lie. Sasuke looked unhappy. You're still the same as before, always looking at me with such eyes. Itachi was stunned. Yeah, you've grown a lot, I really? At this time Nagato made a sound that didn't belong to him. Oh, allow me to interrupt the two of you. You just mentioned Uchiha Shirsue's Koto Amatsukami? This voice. Naruto's face changed slightly. You're Kabuto? It seems that my sense of existence has really become a lot stronger. Kabuto felt gratified and then said, can you answer my question? Itachi didn't hide it, he also wanted to know why his arrangement failed. I implanted Shirsue's jutsu in Naruto's eyes, using my Mangekyo as a trigger medium. If Sasuke transplants my eyes and faces wood leaf, the jutsu called Guard Wood Leaf will take effect, so that Sasuke will no longer be an enemy of Wood Leaf. Oh, you're ready to modify your brother's will before you die, you're indeed Itachi. Kabuto said with half admiration and half sarcasm. Itachi ignored him and said, I originally planned to use this jutsu on me if it didn't have time to take effect, to get rid of the control of Edo Tensei, but I didn't expect this jutsu to fail for some reason. Nagato's pupils shrank. Sure enough, they're a group of difficult guys, all of them want to break free from my control. Killer Bee caught the key information. All of them? Well, Nagato naturally didn't mind giving Madara a bad look. Of course it's Uchiha Madara, he's now free. Uchiha Madara? The three were a little surprised but they weren't too worried. Not to mention the unfathomable Garashi-sama, even First Dame Naruto has a record of defeating Uchiha Madara. Looking at Itachi's eyes, Naruto said honestly, the eyes you left in my body were taken away by Garashi-sama. Itachi was surprised. The mysterious powerhouse who helped you defeat Pain? Naruto nodded. Well, maybe it's because Garashi Dage got Shirsue's right eye from Danzo, and there's a connection between the two eyes. Nagato's eyes lit up and he thought to himself, he actually got Shirsue's complete pair of eyes. Perhaps I should change my plan and start with him. If it was just an eye, he might have to consider whether it was worth it. After all, the other party was a strong enemy who defeated Pain. But if it's a pair of eyes, the meaning is completely different. In the case of doubling the power of his eyes, he may be able to regain control of Madara. Moreover, the other party was an enemy. Since he was an enemy, it meant that they would meet sooner or later. Thinking of this, the desire in Duban's heart grew even more intense, and he no longer cared about fighting the three of them. After all, the Hachibi and Kyubi's Jinchuriki are Uchiha Bordered Soil's goal, not his, so he is too lazy to work for others. Killer Bee's eyes were sharp, and he noticed that Nagato didn't want to fight. Be careful, he's going to escape. Oh. Sasuke's face changed. I haven't made it clear to Itachi yet. Sorry, I'm not a caring big brother. I have no obligation to chat with you. Duban smiled and controlled Nagato and Itachi to retreat. However, if you're willing to come to my side, let alone let you talk, I'll send Uchiha Itachi to your bed. Don't run. Naruto shouted and chased after him. Super Shinra Tensei. Duban was very decisive and directly activated the Shinra Tensei at maximum power, raising the forest they were in to the ground. The three of them were also blasted a few kilometers away by this powerful repulsive force. When the storm subsided, Itachi and Nagato were long gone. So strong, worthy of the host of Rinnegan. Killer Bee looked around in surprise. If he wasn't in a hurry to leave, the three of us might not be his opponents. Naruto's expression was dignified. Of course he's strong. That bastard killed Jiraiya-sensei. Sasuke's face was dark all the time. No matter how much of a bastard Itachi is, he can't be controlled by a rat in the gutter. Let's go back and inform Big Brother. Killer Bee said in a deep voice. He heard you talking about Shirsue's eyes, so he wanted to retreat. It means that he's probably eyeing Shirsue-sama. Huh? He's eyeing Garashi Dage? Naruto opened his mouth wide. Isn't it good to be alive? By the way, I forgot that they're all dead. Don't say such stupid things. If these bastards interfere with Garashi-sama because of us, and ultimately affect the outcome of the war, we'll be sinners in history. Sasuke's voice was cold. Let's go back now and block those bastards outside. Killer Bee nodded. Also inform the headquarters. Since that guy named Duban is eyeing Garashi-sama, there must be more than two of them. At the same time in Akatsuki's base, Bordered Soil, who was adapting to Ichibi's eyes, suddenly stood up. That bastard found the traces of Hachibi and Kyubi's Jinchuriki, but he didn't entangle them. Stupid. Uchiha Madara on the side joked. It seems that the ally you found is not reliable. Bordered Soil looked at him calmly. In this world, the only person you can rely on is yourself. Madara narrowed his eyes. It seems that you're going to do it yourself? Bordered Soil sighed. In any case, the initiative must be in our hands. Madara nodded. You're right, so I'll go with you. Bordered Soil's voice was calm. It's rare for you to have such an interest. Madara laughed loudly. I also want to know if the ninja of this era is qualified to dance in front of me. Frontline troops, the 3rd unit. In the temporary clinic. Sakura was fiddling with the medical kit and Niji asked casually. Sakura, where's Captain Shizun? Sakura said casually, Shizun-senpai is treating Dolphin. His foot seems to be badly sprained. Niji asked with concern. It's better to hurt her foot than to hurt her hand. Can she still return to the battlefield? Sakura froze and said with a strange look. Ha, yes, if her hand is fine, at least she can print. Yes. Niji said and stretched out his right hand and approached Sakura. My wrist still hurts a little. Can you help me? Of course. While Sakura lowered her head, Niji grabbed the kunai with his left hand and stabbed it hard. Then he was knocked to the ground by Sakura's heavy punch. How is it possible? My subtle disguise was seen through by you. Sakura's mouth twitched. Idiot, how can a pig have a hand? White Zetsu, who showed his true form, looked sad and angry. It's despicable to deceive me with a pig's name. Don't talk nonsense. Tell me how you disguised yourself as Niji. Sakura said with some fear. If this idiot didn't give himself away, she might not have found out the problem. White Zetsu grinned. My transformation technique is the best in the ninja world. You are lucky, but others won't be as lucky as you. Sakura's heart was cold. Indeed, only a few people can recognize the enemy. Once they are allowed to wreak havoc, the trust built in the major ninja villages will soon disappear. At that time, the ninja coalition will collapse without the enemy's help. Thinking of this, Sakura punched hard. Damn it. Seeing Sakura so angry, White Zetsu laughed wildly. Even if you kill one of me, there will be thousands of me standing up. Plop. The tent opened and Mizuki grabbed a long string of White Zetsu and threw it on the ground. These White Zetsu were strung up by wooden vines. Sakura blinked and asked, Mizuki Dage these are? Mizuki's voice was cold. There was a bastard who dared to approach me in the appearance of the leader. After killing him, I simply dealt with all the bastards in the camp. The one in your hand should be the last one, then I'll leave them to you. Chapter 550. Looking at the stunned and sluggish White Zetsu, Sakura said sympathetically, Thousands of you are here. White Zetsu's face was grim. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Mizuki glanced at him indifferently. It would be strange if he couldn't sense the aura strengthened by Mokutan. However, he didn't intend to explain to these bastards who made him unhappy and walked out without saying a word. Sakura completely knocked down White Zetsu with a heavy punch, then hurriedly chased after him. Mizuki-sen, can you tell me how you found them? I'm worried that these bastards have infiltrated the other troops. Mizuki's tone was calm. They've been strengthened by Mokutan. Those who are proficient in Mokutan can naturally sense it. Strengthened by Mokutan. Sakura's face changed greatly. Some time ago, Captain Yamato disappeared. Was he captured by the Akatsuki and used to strengthen these White Zetsu? Also, the other troops are not like our third army. With Mizuki-san's help, they will still be affected. At this time, a rush of footsteps came from a distance. Sakura turned her head, looked at the person who came and said happily, Kakashi-sensei, quickly informed the other troops that a large number of White Zetsu have mixed into the coalition forces with the help of transformation jutsu. The current way to crack them is to use Mokutan's power to investigate. Kakashi looked at the series of White Zetsu with some surprise, and after listening to Sakura's explanation, his expression became more dignified. Mokutan's power, this is difficult. Although there was someone in front of him who could use Mokutan, Mizuki was Garashi-sama's guard. It was already difficult for him to eradicate the White Zetsu in the Third Army. If he asked someone to ignore his duty and go to other troops to help investigate, it would be inconsiderate. I will inform the headquarters about the White Zetsu. Kakashi paused, then continued, just now the command center sent 2 messages. First, Naruto and Yunin's Hachibi Jinchuriki went out without permission and encountered the enemy. Although the enemy temporarily retreated, the next large-scale action against them is expected. Therefore, the headquarters ordered our troops to move closer to their area so that we can support them at any time. Naruto. Sakura was nervous, then asked, why support them at any time? Doesn't Naruto's father know Flying Thunder God Jutsu? He should be able to bring them back to the headquarters before the enemy arrives, right? With that said, Sakura's face changed. Could it be that the headquarters wants to use Naruto as bait? This is too much. Kakashi sighed. They clearly know how important they are, yet they still ran out on their own. The command center wants to teach them a lesson, right? Xiaoying pouted. However, will the enemy really fall for such an obvious trap? This is a conspiracy, Kakashi said. If the enemy doesn't appear, then Naruto and the others can naturally return safely. If the enemy appears, it's already good news for the current situation where the enemy is in the dark. Xiaoying stopped talking and secretly glanced at Shuei-mu. She thought to herself, it's not a bad idea for all the major forces to meet up. If there's another blind white Zetsu who offends Senior Shuei-mu, he can also get rid of the hidden danger. At this thought, Xiaoying asked, Teacher Kakashi, what's the second thing? Kakashi looked at Mizuki apologetically, because Naruto accidentally revealed that Garashi-sama has Uchiha Shirsue's eyes. Garashi-sama may be targeted by someone. According to the intelligence, Kirin's 7 legendary swordsmen were reincarnated by Edo Tensei and are moving quickly towards our location. It's very likely that they're the enemy's advanced troops. 7 legendary swordsmen? Mizuki's indifferent face became kind for the first time. Oh, it's really fate. Fate. Sakura asked, puzzled, Senpai, have you ever crossed paths with the 7 legendary swordsmen? Mizuki recalled, in my world, the 7 legendary swordsmen were the first major crisis we encountered under the leadership of our leader. After all, we were only 12 years old at that time. 12 years old. Sakura thought of her own powerlessness when she met Orochimaru in the Chunin exam and asked worriedly, how did you escape in the end? In her mind, she had already imagined the touching scene of Brother Garashi fighting a bloody battle for everyone and finally waiting for reinforcements to arrive before he fainted. Kakashi also recalled that when he was 12 years old, he had just been promoted to Jonin. It was the peak of his life, and then he suffered one major blow after another. He couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, no one's success is easy. Presumably, Garashi-sama has a lot of bitterness and tears behind his back. Escape? Mizuki was startled. Oh, you mean the 7 legendary swordsmen, right? After the leader killed 5 of them, the other 2 barely escaped. Sakura was stunned. This was a bit different from what she imagined. Senpai, didn't you say there was a major crisis? Yes. Aren't heroes people who can create miracles in danger? Mizuki said, under the leader's encouragement, we temporarily learned the 4 purple flame formation and divided the 7 legendary swordsmen. Although the formation could only last for a few seconds, it was enough for the leader to kill 5 of them. Sakura recalled the time when she was scared by Orochimaru and didn't dare to move. She lowered her head dispiritedly, I am trash. We are not the same, not the same. Kakashi felt that people's joys and sorrows were not the same. He could only be ravaged by fate, but Garashi-sama created miracles. After completing the daily puff, Mizuki was refreshed. His mood, which was destroyed by White Zetsu before, was a lot better. He licked the corner of his mouth and smiled cruelly, let me deal with the 7 legendary swordsmen. In the past, I could only hide behind the leader and it made me unhappy for a long time. Looking at Mizuki's expression, which was similar to Orochimaru's, Sakura and Kakashi couldn't help but shiver. They subconsciously mourned for the 7 legendary swordsmen. At the same time, the 7 legendary swordsmen and Haku were galloping in the forest. The 7 legendary swordsmen have to join forces to deal with one person. That person is really cautious. And Hachi sneered. Rather than being cautious, it's better to say that he doesn't understand our strength. Nakamura said. Humph. I hope that this alliance won't ruin the reputation of the 7 legendary swordsmen. Kurosakura coldly looked at If You Don't Kill and Lin Chuyu and said, especially you juniors. At this time, Haku suddenly asked, have the seniors ever joined forces to fight an enemy? The few people who were originally restless immediately quieted down. They did have the experience of joining forces to fight an enemy, but it was embarrassing. Hachi scolded, children, don't interrupt. If You Don't Kill suddenly became cold. In the case of joining forces, 3 of you were killed by a woodleaf genin, and you have the nerve to scold my people? Chapter 551. A simple sentence immediately stung the sensitive nerves of the three. Jinpachi was angry. What did you say, kid? Kanemaru said coldly, weren't you also defeated by Woodleaf Genin? If you don't kill emphasized, it was a Woodleaf Jonin and 3 Woodleaf Genin. That's different. Can that beast be called a Genin? Fugu was dissatisfied. Seeing if you don't kill, Sama took the initiative to defend himself. Haku's eyes were dazzling, and he took the initiative to defend himself. I don't think Naruto and the others are ordinary Genin. On the side, Yuri Lin couldn't listen anymore. I say, can't you be a bit more ambitious? Are Genin worthy of your concern? If you don't kill said, you don't understand, they're really special. Mengetsu, who hadn't spoken, interrupted their conversation. Here we are, it's clear who's holding back and who's holding back. Looking at the panicked alliance ninjas in front, Fugu grinned. Summon your swords, I can't wait to taste their blood. I'm sorry, the shark bone is being held by someone else, so I can't communicate with it. Similarly, I can't communicate with Zabuza's beheading katana and my double katana. Mengetsu said as he took out a scroll and communicated with the other 4 ninja swords. If you don't kill, twisted his neck and wrist. It just so happens that neither of us has a sword, so it's fairer to compare. Haku secretly said in his heart, if you don't kill, Sama doesn't have a sword, then let me be your weapon. While talking, the 8 of them rushed into the alliance camp like tigers coming down the mountain. In front of the 4 people with swords, let alone a Chunin, even an ordinary Jonin would find it difficult to resist. Just when they were having fun and gradually regaining their confidence before death, the surrounding trees suddenly grew crazily and chased after the 8 people as if they were alive. This is Mokutan. Surprised if you don't kill, quickly dodged. Fuba, use your explosive blade, flying foam to blow up these eyesore vines. Shursui Tamaru reminded. Understood. Fahachi waved his sword and slashed around. With a roar, the cage woven by the sea of trees exploded. The 8 people escaped from the passage and breathed a sigh of relief, then they heard a violent vibration sound behind them. Looking back, the sea of trees that trapped them before gradually turned into a 100-armed giant. A cold man with strange patterns on his face sat on top of the giant's head, looking down at them. Same as me or even more perfect than me in sage mode? Kabuto, who was remotely controlling the 8 of them, licked his lips. I really want to eat you. At the same time, Mengetsu said, he is the target's guard. Only by defeating him can you get close to that man. Hearing this, everyone's words, Ninja Sensei, even a guard can use Mokutan, and he has a huge chakra. The target isn't a simple person. In fact, even many members of the alliance had some doubts. They didn't know the identity of Mizuki. However, they can at least see that Mizuki is on the side of the alliance, so they naturally waved their flags and shouted. Mizuki looked at the 8 people condescendingly, and his eyes glanced at if you don't kill. Momochi, if you don't kill? Just in time to make up for my regret of not being able to take the Chunin exam. Without waiting for the 7 people to speak, Mizuki directly skipped the pre-battle trash talk and controlled the giant's 100 arms to push out at the same time. A single arm was already comparable to a small mountain. If 100 arms were to appear at the same time, how vast would the area of coverage be? The 8 people were shocked. Even if they were Edo Tensei, they didn't want to experience the humiliation of being flattened. However, just as they were about to escape, the earth under their feet seemed to come alive, entangled them, and then lifted them up and took the initiative to send them to the giant arm. Boom. After a while, Mizuki controlled the giant to retract its arm, and the wind blew, and the 8 stickers on the ground flew up. Fugu took a deep breath and his flattened body inflated. He gritted his teeth and said, Bastard! Don't forget that I am immortal. If you don't kill was also gloomy. You didn't take the opportunity to seal us, that was your biggest mistake. Mizuki crossed his arms. When a cat catches a mouse, it usually likes to play with the mouse until it dies. Unfortunately, I have a similar hobby. You like to play, right? Then I'll let you play enough. If you don't kill's eyes were violent and he raised his left hand. Silent killing technique. The hazy fog obscured everyone's sight, and there was a hidden killing intent in the haze. Immortal art, white stimulation technique. Mizuki opened his mouth and spat out a red light dragon that was playing around the bead. The dragon circled and swam, causing the surrounding air to vibrate violently. The 8 people in the fog only felt that their bones were rubbing against each other until they were broken into powder. The fog quickly dispersed, and if you don't kill collapsed on the ground like soft mud. He cursed unwillingly, damn it, we were played by him again. Mizuki didn't take the opportunity to seal them. but watched them recover with interest. Once again the 8 people attacked together, but it was still useless. Mizuki, who had mastered many Kekkei Genkai in Sage mode, was much stronger than them in terms of absolute strength. Looking at the famous 7 legendary swordsmen being defeated again and again, the people in the alliance who were waiting for them were a little numb, and even couldn't bear it. Although these strong people who were reincarnated from the Edo Tensei didn't feel pain, being killed again and again, the psychological trauma was far greater than the physical pain. What was more painful was that they had to fight. It was rare for the enemy to be so arrogant, so naturally, Kabuto wouldn't let go of this opportunity to collect information. Finally, the 7 legendary swordsmen who were killed again and again couldn't bear the humiliation. Damn it, I don't want to play anymore. Bullshit the human world, I want to go back to the underworld. Under the strong desire to commit suicide, they actually broke free from the control of the Edo Tensei and forced their souls to ascend to heaven. This scene surprised Garashi, who was watching the battle from afar. Originally he was optimistic about Kabuto, the dream realization master, and thought that Kabuto could use his excellent battlefield micro to deliver the heads without leaving a trace, complete a wave of reform, and then let their souls ascend to heaven. However, this battlefield micro master he was optimistic about might be addicted to delivering heads, and he actually delivered them to him. This gave him a headache. If he didn't take the heads delivered to him, wouldn't it be too conspicuous? Just as he was thinking about how to deal with it, Mizuki gave him a surprise. He actually found a physical way to expiate the souls. Kabuto, who was hiding in a dark cave playing chess, widened his eyes and almost crushed the chess piece in his hand into powder. Can the Edo Tensei be released like this? Damn it, in the end I still didn't get the result I wanted. Although he didn't think that the 7 legendary swordsmen would be able to see Shirsue's eyes from the target, he never thought that they would be played to death. Damn it, it seems that my plan has to change again. Chapter 552. In the forest, a group of 8 people was divided into 2 teams and shuttled quickly. One team was Bordered Soil's 6 Paths of the Bordered Soil, and the other team was Uchiha Madara. Bordered Soil stopped jumping in the forest and said with a smile, Black Zetsu sent news that after abandoning Hachibi and Kyubi's Jinchuriki, he stared at the mysterious man who defeated Pain and used the 7 legendary swordsmen to collect information. But his luck doesn't seem to be good. He didn't even see the 7 legendary swordsmen of the swordsmen. 7 legendary swordsmen of the 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 swordsmen? Bordered Soil smiled. I mention this, naturally, not because they are strong but because their way of escape is interesting. Madara was a little surprised. What else can it be besides being sealed? Although he can unlock the Edo Tensei, who is he? He can do things that ordinary people can't do. Bordered Soil jumped between the trees and said without looking back. They were killed by the mysterious man's guards countless times. Finally they couldn't bear the humiliation and forced their souls to go to heaven. Madara's eyes were playful. Killed countless times without being sealed. Can be seen that he is a bad guy. It's really bad and it opened a door for others. Bordered Soil continued. Since extreme humiliation and anger can force the soul of the Edo Tensei to go to heaven, what about other emotions? Or what about other ways of humiliation? For those who are strong and not easy to seal, this may be a new way of thinking. Madara heard something wrong and his voice was cold. What do you mean? Madara-sama, don't think too much. I just remind you in advance that you must abandon your sense of shame. Bordered Soil joked. I don't want a strong ally to go to heaven because of a few words. Take care of the 6 behind you. It's not your turn to worry about my affairs. Madara said coldly. Except for the time when Hashirama stood behind him when he was a child, which made him so nervous that he couldn't pee, he was not afraid of anything else. That would be for the best. Bordered Soil nodded slightly and returned to business. You should be prepared to go all out, right? Madara suppressed his anger and laughed. Those fools don't know our real strength. They think they set a trap and wait for us to jump in, but they seem to forget one thing. In front of me they don't even have a chance to close the net. Bordered Soil touched his left eye with a smile. You can't say that. Without the pupil skill of this eye we would be in trouble. Madara looked at the eye with some fear. His Tomb of Reincarnation can be said to be the ultimate secret jutsu. It is invincible against those who have not touched the realm of the 6 paths, but against those of the same level, it is no different from an advanced version of the clone jutsu. As for that person's eyes, even people in this field would find it hard to guard against. At this time, Bordered Soil suddenly said, "We are about to enter their perception range. I will transfer you into the Kamui space first. My left eye can only shrink myself and other inanimate objects." Madara was excited. "Hurry up, I'm waiting to enjoy the expressions of those people." On the battlefield where the 4th unit was located. "You have become the Kazekage." Looking at Gaara, who was called the Kazekage, Raza was shocked. He was not as shocked as he was when he found out that he was reincarnated by the Edo Tensei. Gaara stood on the sand cloud, and looked down at Raza with a complicated expression. "I used to hate you so much that I even looked forward to killing you with my own hands one day. But when I really sat in this position, I began to understand your actions, father." "Father?" Raza smiled bitterly. "I think I am a qualified Kazekage, but I am not a competent father." "Hey, can you delay your father's talk for a while? We are at war. Be serious." Genjutsu said helplessly. The Raikage looked at the opposite side in confusion. "Sandame Naruto, why are you on the opposite side?" Hiruzen laughed. "Because we were reincarnated by our own people." "Huh. Why can't you would leave Kage attack your own people? It's really annoying." The second Tsuchikage said and raised his hand. Anoki's pupils suddenly shrank. "Be careful, it's Wusama's dust release." Receiving the warning, the allied forces hurriedly fled. Not only that, but Anoki also did the same thing. "It seems that you haven't forgotten that only dust release can deal with dust release." Wusama nodded with satisfaction, and a bright beam of light shot out from his hands. At the moment when the two beams of light were about to collide, the beam of light belonging to Wusama suddenly disappeared. In Wusama's surprised eyes, the beam of light washed over him like a torrent and smashed him into pieces. Then a violent wave came from the distance. The second Tsuchikage's attack was diverted. After perceiving the wave coming from the distance, everyone suddenly had this thought. This is the second Naruto's flying thunder god jutsu. Wusama, whose body was constantly recovering, stared at Minato, who flashed back. "Who are you?" Although dust release takes a long time to prepare, the attack speed is extremely fast, and this man can divert his attack at the moment when dust release is about to collide. This reaction ability is even more amazing than the flying thunder god itself. Minato smiled gently. "I'm the 4th Naruto. So cool." Naruto waved his fist and showed off to the side. "Sasuke, isn't my father powerful? Are you a child?" "Childish." Although he said that, Sasuke's heart was a little sour. Why didn't that bastard Kabuto reincarnate his father? He also wanted his father to see his achievements today. The 4th generation. Wood Leaf is really talented. The second Mizukage asked curiously. "What about our Kirin?" Anoki was silent for a moment. "The current 5th Mizukage is a very good leader." The second Mizukage nodded. "What else?" Anoki thought for a moment and said euphemistically. "There's a lot of room for development." The second Mizukage's mouth twitched. "It doesn't sound good. Can you be specific?" Anoki sighed. "Let's put it this way. Almost all the Kekkei Genkai clans have rebelled or were exterminated. The Jinchuriki is also dead. Only one of the 7 legendary swordsmen is left." The second Mizukage took a deep breath. "Kirin hasn't been removed from the 5 great shinobi villages? Thank you very much for your kindness. In return, let me balance the strength of each village. Steam, danger, explosive might." As soon as his voice fell, a short and fat second Mizukage flew out from the ground, jumped into the crowd, and exploded like a bomb. Chapter 553. Boom. The sudden explosion startled the allied forces, and the heat wave made everyone feel like they were in a sea of fire. But when they opened their eyes, they found that they weren't burned by the heat wave. In the middle of the crowd, a thick layer of sand ball trapped the Mizukage's clone inside. After rejoicing, everyone cheered loudly. "Fortunately, Gaara-sama is here. It's the Kazekage-sama who protected us." However, Gaara's expression was solemn. "Be careful, it's about to start." The sealed doppelganger seeped out from the cracks in the sand and turned back into the appearance of a dwarf. Not only that, but the other 3 Kages also acted. Raza's gold dust surged like a waterfall, and he used the dust release to attack the surrounding coalition forces. The Raikage activated the lightning chakra mode and rampaged through the crowd like a bull. Is this the strength of the previous Kage? Amazing. Cooperate with the Kazekage, Tsuchikage, and Naruto to attack. Attack the third Raikage first. Compared to Wu who flew around in the sky, Raza who hid behind the sandball, and Genjutsu who used the summoned beast clam to create a mirage to hide his body, the allied forces naturally preferred to besiege the third Raikage. However, the ninjutsu used by hundreds of people at the same time couldn't even break the skin of the third Raikage. The third Raikage is worthy of the title of the strongest shield. Wind attacks the thunder, send the wind release ninjas. Under the leadership of Temari, all the wind release ninjas who could use long-range attacks stood up. Wind release team use wind release, net. The wind howled like a whirlwind composed of countless blades. Even if it was hundreds of meters away, it gave a sharp feeling. But such a powerful storm was directly torn apart by the third Raikage. Seeing this situation, everyone's eyes almost popped out. Isn't wind attacks the thunder? Anyway, this defense is too exaggerated. The Raikage could suppress the Hachibi in the past. We need a stronger wind release ninja. Let me do it. Hearing the need for a stronger wind release ninja, Naruto stood up enthusiastically. Me too. Hiruzen said with a smile, I'm quite proficient in wind release. The Raikage rushed towards them and shouted, Come on, use your spears to break my shield. While the two sides were fighting, two people with dark circles under their eyes met. Let me test whether you are qualified to be a Kazekage or not, Raza said, and the gold dust around him suddenly became violent. Without the blessing of the previous Kazekage, this ceremony is indeed incomplete. Watch, father, I will prove my strength to you. Gaara waved his hand, and the sand on the entire battlefield began to riot. On the other side, Sasuke and the second Mizukage faced each other. In front of these eyes, this kind of low-level genjutsu is useless. Sasuke calmly walked towards the hiding place of genjutsu. This kind of arrogant tone, should I say that you're worthy of being an Uchiha? Genjutsu knew that he couldn't hide, so he simply stood up. No strength is arrogance, but strength is confidence. Sasuke raised his right hand and threw a Chidori sharp spear at Genjutsu. What an annoying kid. The second Mizukage sighed and took the initiative to meet him. On the last battlefield, the second Tsuchikage and Inoki used dust release to attack each other. You're still at Tsuchikage at this age. It seems that the village hasn't developed well these years. Is it still the same as before with few talents? Wu asked while shooting dust release. We are the rock Crypsis who understood the will of stone. Showing off has never been our characteristic. Our vitality lies in tenacity. Even if fate doesn't stand on our side, we will survive. Inoki replied with an indisputable tone. It's really hard for you to have this kind of belief. Wu was surprised. I just picked myself up from the tracks of another world. Inoki bypassed the seal and mentioned it in a way that brushed the edge of the topic. Just when the two sides were fighting in the middle of the battlefield, a tiny particle suspended in the air opened its eyes and aimed its Mangekyo Sharingan at Naruto. Do you think I'll wait for them to fight fiercely or when the battle is over? I'm sorry, but the best timing is not the best choice. In front of the third Raikage, Naruto was shocked. So strong. Even Futon, Raisin Shuriken can't break Grandpa Raikage's defense. What should I do? Suddenly, the space above Naruto's head fluctuated, and a big hand stretched out and grabbed his neck with lightning speed. Got you, Fox. Almost at the moment when Naruto was caught, Madara summoned the Geto Mazo and began to pull the bijou out. The sudden change attracted everyone's attention, and they couldn't believe it. Naruto. Uchiha Madara? What is this monster? Just when their attention was attracted by Madara, the dust behind Killer Bee instantly magnified countless times, and the 6 clones created by the Edo Tensei were also released. 7 of them attacked Killer Bee at the same time. The command center monitoring several major battlefields suddenly issued a sharp alarm. 8 unusually huge chakra suddenly appeared in the 4th battlefield, and their target is the 2 Jinchuriki. Not good, the vitality of Hachibi and Kyuubi's Jinchuriki is rapidly weakening. Hearing the report, everyone in the command center was shocked. Why wasn't there a warning in advance? How did the enemy do it? Tobirama was puzzled. Hearing the rapid weakening of the vitality, A's body shook, and then he shouted at the top of his lungs. Take me to the battlefield over there, now. Hashirama patted Tobirama's shoulder. There's no time to wonder, take us there with Flying Thunder God Jutsu. And me? Tsunade said nervously. Take me with you. I understand. Tobirama knew that time was pressing and no longer hesitated, he directly took everyone to Minato. Back to the battlefield. Killer Bee was also caught by bordered soil and began to pull the bijou out. Everyone in the coalition army returned to their senses and madly attacked the Gedo Mazo. However, most of their attacks didn't work on the Gedo Mazo at all. The slightly threatening ninjutsu was absorbed by Madara and bordered soil with the ability of Rinnegan. Seeing this situation, Hashirama pointed to Madara and shouted, "Madara, stop it." Seeing Hashirama's arrival, the flame in Madara's eyes burned. "It's too late, Hashirama. Feel the fear and anger of those Bijou. Knowing that the enemy is you, they even struggle less. Next, it's time for the Jubi to appear." Chapter 554. Hashirama wanted to continue to persuade, but it was too late. He was thrown out by his brother as a hidden weapon. Seeing such a big Hashirama flying towards him, Madara was not angry but happy. "Let me show you my current strength." Bansho Tenshin. Although he was pulled by Tobirama and Madara, Hashirama was the god of ninja. He adjusted his posture in mid-air, clapped his hands and entered Sage mode. Senjutsu, Bright God Gate. A large number of red torii fell from the sky and blocked the restless Jubi. Sure enough, it's still not complete. Seeing Jubi so easily bound by Hashirama, Madara thought, "Madara, what are you looking at?" Hashirama roared and confronted Madara. While the two were fighting, Tobirama used Hashirama as a coordinate and jumped near the two with Flying Thunder God Jutsu, taking the opportunity to recapture Naruto. Although Madara noticed Tobirama's action, Kyuubi had been pulled away and Hashirama was beautiful, so he let Tobirama recapture Naruto. On the other side, Minato grabbed AI and teleported to Bordered Soil's side, catching Bordered Soil off guard. "Why can you use Flying Thunder God Jutsu on me?" Bordered Soil said and suddenly realized, "Was it when I was a child? Did you leave a jutsu on me?" Looking at Bordered Soil, who was different from his memory, Minato was sad. Yes, the mark of Flying Thunder God Jutsu will not disappear. AI Chang resisted the urge to punch Obito's head and took advantage of the gap between the two of them to take back Killer Bee from the Jubi. Seeing that Minato's action was successful, Tobirama left his brother, teleported to Minato's side, and took Raikage away from the battlefield. As soon as he landed, AI shouted, "Naruto, come and treat them." In fact, he didn't need to remind him. Tsunade's mind has been worried about Naruto. Seeing Naruto and Killer Bee were taken back, she rushed between the two and treated them at the same time. But even with her medical ninjutsu, she could only slightly slow down the extinguishing of the two's fire of life. "Damn it, if this continues they will die," Tsunade said to herself anxiously. With a serious face, Hiruzen asked loudly, "Minato, can you extract that part of chakra from your body?" Minato understood what Sanday meant. He still had half of Kyuubi sealed in his body. If he can transfer this half of Kyuubi into Naruto's body, Naruto shouldn't die. Thinking of this, Minato hurriedly replied, "Sure, I'll be right back." However, the corners of Bordered Soil's mouth rose slightly. "Minato-sensei, it's rare for us master and disciple to meet. Isn't it too cold to want to leave so soon?" As soon as he finished speaking, the black rods floating around them in a nano-state suddenly grew in size. Even with Minato's reaction speed, he was still pierced by the remaining black rods after dodging a few of them. "I can't condense chakra anymore." Sensing the situation in his body, Minato's expression changed. For the Edo Tensei, the damage caused by the black rods itself was nothing, but the additional effect was fatal. Bordered Soil grabbed the black rods and held Minato in his hand. "Very good, the last piece of the puzzle is about to be completed. There's no other way." Seeing this, Tsunade hurriedly looked at Naidame Naruto. "Second Grandpa, please send me and them to the third battlefield." The third battlefield. Tobirama instantly understood what she meant. "Are you going to ask for help?" Tsunade nodded. "Except for him, I can't think of anyone else who can save them." Tobirama took a deep breath and glanced at everyone. "Before we come back, please try to stop the enemy." After that, he took Tsunade, Naruto and Killer Bee and left. On the side, Sasuke's face was gloomy. "Naruto can only be defeated by me. Can't you bugs just hide in the sewer?" Susanoo. After transplanting Itachi's eyes, he can already use the third stage, the full body armor, second only to the complete Susanoo. A 100-meter-tall giant suddenly appeared on the battlefield, and even Madara was attracted. "He's Uchiha Sasuke, the last member of the Uchiha clan? These eyes are really similar to Izuna's. It makes me feel like I'm dreaming of the Sengoku period." Seeing Madara's face showing a look of nostalgia, Hashirama took the opportunity to persuade him. "Madara, don't make mistakes again." "Wrong?
Madara sneered. I have mastered the absolute truth. Even if there is a mistake, it's the world that's wrong, not me. With that, Madara's body suddenly erupted with a powerful repulsive force, and Hashirama flew out. Damn that Uchiha boy. Hashirama was worried that Madara and bordered soil would besiege Sasuke. Then he saw Madara jump into the air, transformed into the complete Susanoo, and slashed at him with Itachi. Hashirama, let's continue the battle in the Valley of the End. It turns out that the top of the golem's head is too small for the battlefield, and it's not interesting enough to fight? Hashirama smiled twice and his face was solemn. But this is also what I want. Senjutsu, would release, true thousand hands. On the other side, Sasuke controlled the giant to shoot an arrow at bordered soil. Gekido, made of Yuki's body, stood in front of bordered soil, opened its arms and absorbed the chakra arrow. Han combined the strange power of Shirato and the explosion of boil release, jumped up and hit Susanoo's armor, making the giant retreat a few steps. But while Susanoo was retreating, Han's body suddenly ignited with black flames. Even in this case he can still use Amaterasu to fight back. Uchiha Sasuke deserves to be called Uchiha Sasuke. Rashi exclaimed in amazement of bordered soil, and he opened his mouth and spat out hundreds of magma balls. Lava release, scorching river rock technique. Sasuke was about to dodge, but he found that his body was paralyzed and he couldn't move. A small figure flew over his head and countless scales scattered. It was the paralysis powder of Nanabai's Jinchuriki. Not only that, Rokubi's Jinchuriki also took the opportunity to spit out a wave of strong corrosive liquid. The magma balls and acid sprayed on the giant's body, melting the chakra armor around the giant's body. Then, Yonde Mizukage used the water mirror technique to summon the weakened Susanoo clone. Damn, although these Jinchuriki's strength is much weaker than when they were alive, they are more difficult to deal with than before. Sasuke frowned and looked at bordered soil, who was in the middle of 6 people trying to peel off Kyuubi. We must interfere with him, or pull out the black stick on Yondame's body. Seeing Sasuke in trouble, everyone wanted to help, but they didn't have time to seal the 4 Kages. Compared to before, they had Raikage on their side, but they lost Naruto, Sasuke, Killer Bee and Minato. Under such circumstances, it would be difficult to maintain the current situation, let alone diverting combat power to deal with Obito. For a while, everyone could only hope that the reinforcements would come as soon as possible. Chapter 555. The Third Battlefield in the Temporary Clinic. Sakura examined White Zetsu with a serious face and Kakashi asked, "How is it? Can you identify them at the root level? Can you crack their transformation technique?" "No, maybe it's because my level is limited." Sakura shook her head slightly. "However, when I examined them, I found something strange. They seem to have genes similar to humans." Kakashi was surprised. "You mean their ancestors or the source may also be human?" At this time, White Zetsu, who was being studied, made a dissatisfied sound. "Hey, you are too rude. What do you mean by may be human? We are originally advanced new human beings. We have intelligence and emotions above you, except that we can't poop. By the way, can you tell me what it feels like to poop? I have observed your human poop. It starts with irritation and pain, then comfort and pleasure, and finally emptiness and boredom." "Aya, you're so annoying," Xiaoying said angrily. "Can you shut up, you bastard? Is this something a lady should discuss?" White Zetsu shouted with an exaggerated expression. "Don't you know how to poop? Did I accidentally poke your sore spot? Actually, you don't have to be sad. Not having to poop is the advanced part of our new human beings. We can digest poop in our body." Sakura finally couldn't help it and screamed wildly, "Ah! Who said I can't poop?" Then, Tsunade and Tobarama, who suddenly appeared beside the 3 of them, were stunned. Are young people now so bold? How can they talk about this kind of thing? At this time, Sakura also noticed the arrival of Tsunade-sensei and Naidame. Her face was as red as a monkey's, but, "Tsunade-sensei, actually Before she finished speaking, Kakashi walked over nervously. "Naruto-sama, Naidame-sama, Naruto and Killer Bee are here?" Tsunade's expression was dignified. They were stripped of their tailed beasts by Madara and bordered soil. Sakura noticed that Naruto's eyes were closed, and his breath was constantly weakening. She didn't care about the shame in her heart. Stripped of their tailed beasts? Then Naruto I understand, Tsunade-sensei, are you here to ask for help from sensei? Tsunade nodded, yes. Then let's hurry over. Xiaoying said as she suddenly retreated and walked in front of Baiju.
Seeing Xiao Ying's raised fist, Baiju shouted, "Can you use a gentler method?" "There's no time." Under Xiao Ying's lead, the 6 of them quickly arrived in front of a temporary tent. Shuemu was waiting outside. When he saw them arrive, he narrowed his eyes. "It seems that your progress is not very smooth?" Xiaoying nodded. "Senior Shuemu, please inform them." Before she could finish, a voice came from the tent. "Come in." Seeing the 6 of them enter, even Garashi was a little surprised. Have they been stripped of their tailed beasts? He could control the overall situation from behind the scenes, but he couldn't fully grasp the details of the changes in the tributaries. No one was surprised that Garashi could see through their condition at a glance. They only asked nervously, "Can they still be saved?" Garashi said concisely, "There's hope." "That's great." They heaved a sigh of relief. Especially Naidame and Tsunade. After all, Naruto and the others were in danger because of their miscalculation. Xiaoying was still a little worried. Chio saved Gaara at the cost of her life. "Senior brother, what's the price you have to pay to save Naruto and the others?" "Of course there is a price." Garashi nodded. "They should be weak for half a day. Even if Chio can do it, he can naturally do it." Hearing the first half of the sentence, everyone who had their hearts in their throats finally relaxed. 2 doomed people were pulled back from the gates of hell, and they only need to be weak for a while. He's like a god. Tobarama sighed in his heart. If his big brother was the god of ninja, then this one could completely remove the first 3 words. Garashi treated the 2 and asked, "What's the situation on the battlefield?" Tobarama's mind returned to reality, and his voice was heavy. "It's very troublesome. When we left, Madara had already summoned the Jubi, and the Kyubi was also in their hands." "What? The situation has deteriorated to this point?" Kakashi's face changed greatly. Tsunade nodded with a solemn expression. "I'll leave it to you here. Naidame and I have to rush back to the battlefield as soon as possible." "I'll go too," Kakashi said. "My Sharingan and bordered soil have the same root, maybe I can help." "And me?" Xiaoying hurriedly raised her hand. "My medical ninjutsu should also play a role." At this critical moment, Tsunade naturally wouldn't hesitate. "Okay, you come with me." At this time, Garashi suddenly said, "Mizuki, you go and help." Although she was happy to have Mizuki's help, Tsunade still restrained herself. "Aren't you going to be weak? Mizuki should stay and protect you." Garashi shook his head slightly. "Don't worry." Mizuki knew that Garashi was only here with his clone. Since Garashi said so, it meant that he made a decision. Therefore he calmly walked to Tsunade's side. "The leader doesn't need anyone to protect him. I just want to ensure that the leader is not disturbed. As for strength, even if the leader is 100 times weaker, he is still stronger than me." Several people were shocked. Garashi in a weakened state was 100 times stronger than Mizuki? Although they now knew Mizuki's habit of bragging every day, even if it was a little exaggerated, it should be 10 times stronger, right? Unfortunately, Garashi's only record so far was killing Pain with 1 blow, so they could only guess his strength. Garashi didn't comment and looked at Mizuki. "At the critical moment, you can call my name in your heart." Mizuki's eyes lit up. He and Wu-wei were both taught by Garashi how to pray to the gods in the early days. Xiaoying was a little puzzled. "What's the use of this?" Garashi explained with a smile, "I can descend my will on Mizuki, control his body to fight, and even lend power remotely." In a sense, it was the god-summoning technique. "That's amazing." Xiaoying was envious. "Can we call in our hearts?" "Of course not, your thoughts are too impure." Garashi complained in his heart. He didn't want to receive the prayers of a love-struck brain every day. Without needing him to explain, Mizuki proudly explained, "Do you think anyone can rely on prayer to get power? Chakra is the power that connects hearts. Only the purest heart and unreserved trust in the leader can achieve a bridge across the void." Chapter 556. Wow, you're amazing. Xiaoying clapped her hands in confusion. The power to connect the heart to heart? Rumor has it that the ancestors in ancient times used chakra in this way. Tobarama sighed in his heart. Tsunade urged, "Now that it's decided, let's go." "Well, there's no time to waste." Tobarama wrapped chakra around several people, launched the flying thunder god jutsu, and disappeared from Garashi's eyes the next moment. The deliverance hasn't been completed yet, the time of the decisive battle has to be delayed a little bit. Looking at the place where several people disappeared, Garashi thought. On the battlefield. After a battle, the complete Susanoo was held in the palm of the Buddha statue. Impossible, I don't believe it. I awakened Rinnegan, how could I lose? Hashirama stood on the top of the Buddha statue. Although you awakened Rinnegan, you also lost the power of the Kyuubi compared to the Battle of the Valley of the End. Madara was silent for a moment and calmed down. Sure enough, losing to you is the most unacceptable thing for me. Unfortunately, the power of Rinnegan can only be fully exerted when I'm alive. If I can be resurrected perfectly, the ending will be completely different. Anyway, you should stay here obediently for now. Senjutsu, Bright God Gate. Hashirama sucked Madara's chakra away with Mokutan, let him out of the Susanoo state, and then locked Madara on the ground like a guillotine. On the other side, Sasuke also went through a serious consideration and finally chose to give up thinking. Damn, if only I had awakened the ability of time and space. In this case he really couldn't save Minato. Seeing Madara defeated, Bordered Soil frowned. As expected of the god of ninja, even Madara who awakened Rinnegan was defeated by him. However, I can't let Madara be sealed by them. I need to use Madara's control of his Rinnegan and the person who exchanged eyes with me to restrain each other. Thinking of this, Bordered Soil took a deep breath. I can only start the plan ahead of schedule. 6 paths Jubi Seal. Bordered Soil's body was like a whirlpool, absorbing the Jubi that had transformed into Jubi into his body. Then the ground shook violently as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. It was as if the entire world was trembling uneasily. The Bordered Soil's body also underwent a huge change. His skin became pale white, and his epidermis turned into horny scales, as if he was wearing a scale armor. The sight of such a huge ghetto golem being sucked into the Bordered Soil naturally attracted everyone's attention. This was especially true for the Bordered Soil. Its appearance was completely different from that of a human. What's wrong with that guy? Do you have albinism? Strange, I've never heard of a Jinchuriki turning into such a strange shape. Is this guy still human? Everyone was very surprised and discussed loudly. Is this the power of God? So intoxicating. The Bordered Soil was closing his eyes to experience this power when he suddenly let out a scream. The right side of Zetsu's body was twisted and bloated, constantly changing shape. One moment it was like a swollen tumor, the next it was like a wriggling maggot. In short, it was as disgusting as it could be. These changes caused goosebumps to appear on everyone's skin. As disgusting, is he completely not human? Ordinary people's Jinchuriki will go berserk because they can't suppress the Bijuu's consciousness. As the Jubi's Jinchuriki, the pressure he bears is at least 100 times that of ordinary Jinchuriki. Take this opportunity to kill him. Madara, who was suppressed under the Tori, narrowed his eyes. The power of the 6 paths Sannin is the power of balance. That half of the body is stabilized with the help of Hashirama's cells. Once it enters the 6 paths mode, any imbalance in the body will be infinitely magnified, and the body that doesn't belong to itself will become the breakthrough point of collapse. In this way the Jubi itself is an unstable factor. Before the consciousness of the 9 Bijuu completely disappears, once someone triggers their consciousness, the barely achieved balance will collapse again. Sure enough, the idea of letting him demonstrate to me was correct. The next step is to awaken his will. Imprisonment spell charm, illusion. Suddenly the Bordered Soil's heart beat hard. In a trance, he seemed to see Rin's figure, heard Rin's encouragement to him, and imagined Rin's promise to him. In the Genjutsu, Madara looked at the Bordered Soil who was kissing him and almost couldn't help but beat the Bordered Soil. Isn't he building a healing illusion? Where did this evil beast go? Outside, the Bordered Soil, who had swollen into a meatball, roared. Ah! The next moment, his twisted and collapsed body was reassembled, and the terrifying momentum broke out, and the ninjas around him were blown out. The bloated leaked power returned to the body, and the Bordered Soil opened his eyes again. It's all over. He suppressed the Jubi's consciousness with his own will. No matter what his position is, he is a powerful ninja. Hashirama praised. I really underestimated him. His will is as tough as steel. Gaara took a deep breath. As a former Ichibi's Jinchuriki, he knew how difficult it was to suppress these tailed beasts, not to mention the aggregation of all the tailed beasts. Madara's mouth twitched. In a sense, the will of the Bordered Soil was indeed tough, but it may be a little different from what they understood. Although I barely suppressed the Jubi's consciousness with Rin's power, it's hard to say when it will lose control again. We have to end this quickly. The Bordered Soil touched his lower abdomen with his left hand and waved the sage staff with his right hand, and the black spheres floating behind him flew toward the coalition. Although these black spheres looked ordinary and did not exude any terrible power, Hashirama reacted immediately. Be careful everyone, try to stay away from this thing. Very smart, but in the face of absolute power, this little bit of cleverness is of no use. The bordered soil said calmly, letting the power of the truth-seeking ball break out. The surface of the truth-seeking ball bloomed with a layer of black light, like a black hole that swallowed everything, and any matter touched by this black light instantly disappeared. The black light spread extremely fast, and Hashirama had no time to think about it. He clapped his hands. Mokutan, world of trees descends. An endless sea of trees emerged from the earth in an instant, wrapping the black spheres. But before everyone could rejoice, they saw the sea of trees as tough as iron torn and swallowed like white paper. What level of power is this? Hashirama was shocked. It was the first time he encountered an ability that even his Mokutan couldn't resist at all. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Tobarama came back with Tsunade and the others, and flew forward at the fastest speed and moved the truth-seeking ball to a distance. In the next moment, a tall mountain in the distance was silently erased, like an eraser modifying a picture. There was not the slightest movement. Chapter 557. Seeing that the attack was transferred, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. What are those black spheres? Why do I feel that the power contained in them is more terrible than dust release? I wonder what will happen if dust release collides with those black spheres? Tobarama teleported back, and his entire left hand disappeared. However, everyone knew that Edo Tensei could be reborn infinitely, so they didn't pay attention to his injuries. Reikage asked anxiously, Nidame Naruto, how is it? Tobarama replied, that Sama said that he can save me. That's good. Reikage was relieved. Bordered soil didn't chase after them but looked at Kakashi. Kakashi, this world that was caused by your incompetence will finally come to an end. Looking at the changed form of bordered soil, Kakashi couldn't believe it. Bordered soil, how did you become like this? Bordered soil smiled contemptuously. What's wrong? Do you feel ashamed under the majesty of God? God. Yes, God. Bordered soil chanted, Rikudo Sennin created the world with this power, and I will use this power to reshape the world. Don't struggle, don't resist, accept your fate. Before he finished speaking, Sasuke controlled the giant to shoot an arrow. Trash talk too much. The black ball suspended behind Obito flew to the front and spread out into a soft membrane. The huge arrow, which seemed to contain a vast amount of power, melted like snow under the sun when it came into contact with the soft membrane. So irritable. But it's fine, there's really nothing in this world worth my nostalgia. Bordered soil waved his sage staff, and 6 of the 9 truth-seeking balls behind him flew out. Fall completely, I will recreate all of this in the dream. Gaara quickly commanded, scatter formation B, retreat 300 meters and use long-range ninjutsu to counterattack. Yes. Everyone quickly retreated. When they retreated to a certain distance, the black sphere no longer chased after them. Instead, it directly released its power in the sky. Everyone in the coalition army looked at the edge of the black light in horror, but Tobarama noticed it. The attack I transferred before was the same. When I was still a certain distance away from the crowd, I released the power. Could it be that this seemingly limitless attack only has a range of less than 100 meters? At this time, the bordered soil also noticed that although the truth-seeking jade was extremely powerful, its excessive power made it difficult to control. If it was more than 70 meters away from him, he could not control the truth-seeking jade well. At the same time, tens of thousands of people used their best ninjutsu at the same time, like a torrent of ninjutsu, they rushed towards the bordered soil. However, Obito just expanded the soft black membrane into a sphere to cover himself and did not care about it anymore. The bordered soil in the sphere frowned. It can only be used as a defensive and close combat weapon? Looks like I need to stretch my limbs a little. It just so happens that I also want to know how strong my current body is. Outside, after the torrent of ninjutsu, the black sphere stood still like a stone. This discovery sent chills down everyone's spines. It's not that they haven't seen the ability to absorb ninjutsu, but no matter how much chakra can be absorbed, there should be a limit. The black sphere that resisted tens of thousands of ninjutsu without any change is really scary. Even the defensive ability is so strong? Tobarama said to himself. Just as he was about to remind everyone to pay attention to the attack range of the black sphere, he found that the black sphere suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, the bordered soil appeared in front of him almost instantaneously and waved his staff. So fast. Tobarama's pupils suddenly shrank, and he subconsciously used the flying thunder god jutsu to dodge. Obito did not give up and followed closely behind him like a maggot attached to a bone. While dodging, Tobarama thought to himself, choosing me as the first target, do you think my flying thunder god jutsu is too much of a hindrance? But I am the Edo Tensei, ordinary attacks are meaningless, you must seal me. Seeing that Tobarama was being chased, Hashirama instinctively rushed up. Mokutan, Wood Dragon Jutsu. Just in time. The bordered soil decisively abandoned Tobarama and waved his staff towards Hashirama. At this time, Tobarama finally noticed the point that he ignored before. Something's wrong, why hasn't my left hand recovered yet? It's reasonable to say that even if the whole body is destroyed, it should be almost restored. Is it possible that the part destroyed by the black sphere can't be restored even by the Edo Tensei? Tobarama was shocked. That is to say, his target is actually the only one who can defeat him. Just like before, the powerful Wood Dragon Jutsu had no resistance in front of the black sphere. Just at the moment when the black sphere was about to touch Hashirama, Tobarama suddenly teleported and pushed Hashirama away with his right hand. Then, his right hand was instantly destroyed. Tobarama, what are you doing? Hashirama was a little confused. Be careful, the part destroyed by the black sphere can't be restored even by the Edo Tensei. Tobarama warned. What? The people who heard this sound couldn't believe it, even the Edo Tensei can't restore it? Oh, you finally found it? Obito laughed. The truth-seeking ball is an ultimate ability that combines the power of yin, yang, and the 5 elements. It can resist all attacks and break all boundaries. Even if it's the Edo Tensei, there won't be a second chance. Hearing this, everyone's heart sank. No wonder the previous attack of tens of thousands of ninjutsu didn't have any effect on bordered soil. Their attacks are ineffective against the enemy, and their defense is also ineffective against the enemy. How can they fight? Do you understand now? This is the boundary between God and human. Bordered soil laughed loudly and suddenly heard a sound behind him. He subconsciously opened the truth-seeking ball. Still struggling? I said it's useless, puff. Hundreds of hard logs penetrated the truth-seeking ball and nailed the laughing bordered soil directly to the ground. This sudden turn of events caused everyone's brains to be unable to wrap their heads around it. Didn't they say that this was the power of God? How come it was defeated so quickly? Moreover, they had already tested it before, and the ninjutsu of tens of thousands of people didn't have any effect. Everyone looked in the direction of the attack and saw Mizuki with purple eye lines outlined in the corner of his eyes. Sure enough, you said before that the truth-seeking ball is the power of yin and yang and the 5 elements, right? The power outside this system can't be completely defended. Yes, Senjutsu. Hashirama clapped his hands. No wonder he planned to deal with me first. Madara, who was pressed down by Tori, couldn't help but say, why did this idiot expose his information? Did he get carried away? An incomparably powerful aura suddenly erupted from Obito's body, and the wooden stick stuck in his body was bounced away, and he stood up and shouted angrily, even if you can see through this, what can you do? Only a few of you can use Senjutsu, you can't win against me. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.